we run the risk of curbing our willingness to solve problems and thereby blunting our mental agility. We cannot always trust the answers AI gives us. Therefore, we should think carefully about the answers we get from the digital world. Be vigilant about using our judgment and keep our brains active by not allowing ourselves to check out of decision-making processes. This inquiry was presented by me, Tanya Beckett, produced by Jill Collins, researched by Maeve Schaffer, and edited by Tara McDermott. The technical producer was Craig Boardman.
That was the inquiry from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho here on CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and this is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on that app and on YouTube. And thanks for joining us wherever you're listening from. In Winnipeg today, we are expecting a wet day, not quite as wet as yesterday. I guess we'll see. We have a 60% chance of showers, but we don't have amounts with it. So it means it's going to be wet and rainy and smoky once again. Widespread smoke across the province. A high today in Winnipeg of 24 degrees. With our Humidex, it's going to be a little sticky. It'll feel like 26. Morning show's on until 8:37 a.m. And if you have an issue on your commute, which we hope you don't, but if you do, you can call Sierra Sanders, who's also directing. Good morning, Sierra. And that number is 788-3093. Good morning to Abby Adiemi, all in red. There he is behind the controls. Abby's our senior tech on the show and also will be heard doing the weather on the program throughout the show. He'll be watching that. And then Mr. Brad Lilly saying hello to you. He is our YouTube producer. If you're streaming the show there, then welcome to the morning. Let's get into headlines. Matt Humphrey's in today from our news center at 2 minutes to 6. Hi, Matt.
Good morning. Premier Wab Kinew says Manitoba has an advantage over other provinces when it comes to establishing an Arctic trade corridor. Kinew and the Premier of Saskatchewan have signed an agreement to upgrade infrastructure, modernize supply chains, and increase access to global markets through the Port of Churchill. The port is the only in Canada with an Arctic seaport serviced by rail. We'll hear more about the announcement at the bottom of the hour. And in other news, week-long disruptions are expected at the intersection of Abinogi-Meekina and St. Mary's Road. We're expecting overnight road work every night between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. We'll hear more at 6:30. And if I may, red is Abby's color.
Right?
Absolutely.
I know. Every time Abby wears red, I'm like, looking good, man.
Look at him. He looks incredible.
I know. Everyone on YouTube, shout Abby out for his outfit today. Matt, thank you.
Back soon.
Now, besides talking about what colors work best on you, are you a spring, a summer? Let's talk about what's going on in the weather otherwise. I mentioned Winnipeg a little sticky today. It's going to be smoky in other spots. So yesterday, the north was smoke advisories. A similar situation today. Widespread smoke in Thompson this morning. Your high 22. In Brandon, you're going to get a 60% chance of an afternoon chance of showers and a thunderstorm possible once again. Stay tuned. This morning in the first hour of the show, we're going to be talking about bees. We're going to be talking about how serious things are getting in Gaza. And on our medical column, it's all about mosquitoes. But right now, World Report.
Today on Q.
I'm Garvey Bailey, sitting in for Tom Power. Rock music legend Ozzy Osbourne died Tuesday morning at the age of 76. Back in 2022, Tom Power talked with Ozzy about his new solo album, Patient Number 9, and about his decades-long career.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. CBC News has learned a $68 million immigration project was unexpectedly shut down last year. The goal was to revamp Canada's outdated asylum system and enhance border integrity. But documents show the project was only partially finished. As Priscilla Kisong-Kwong reports, critics worry the abandoned project will cause more problems for people seeking protection.
I want to reform the system. It's not working in the way it should.
That's former Immigration Minister Mark Miller last November on Canada's asylum system plagued with inefficiencies. But just a few months before that public statement, the Immigration Department, IRCC, quietly halted its asylum interoperability project at about two-thirds complete. It was a partnership with border agency CBSA and the Immigration and Refugee Board. Access to information documents show CBSA CBC called the move unexpected. That $68 million project sought to create real-time information sharing to improve workflow, border security, and to help refugee claimants move through the backlog. The government says it's achieved some of those improvements, but today, that backlog is at a historic high with more than 288,000 claims pending as of last month. Refugee lawyer Wei Will Tao.
Again, the first question is if these tools are so effective and being implemented, then why do we still have this backlog?
Syed Hassan is with the Migrant Rights Network. He says it's actually harder for people on the ground now.
It increases deportations, and it's part of a broader turn rightward towards Trump-like policies.
CBSA, the Refugee Board, and IRCC declined an interview, but in a statement, the Immigration Ministry said it hopes the Liberal government's new legislation, the Strong Borders Act, will build on the foundations of this abandoned project. Priscilla Kisan Huang, CBC News, Ottawa.
The UN's highest court is about to hand down a historic opinion on climate change. It could set a legal benchmark for climate action around the world. The case was brought by a group of sinking Pacific Island nations, including Vanuatu. Ralph Riganvanu is Vanuatu's climate minister.
Every court, this will be something they can use, whether it's a municipal level court or a state level court. They will be able to use this new ruling to try to make governments be more accountable and do more.
A panel of 15 judges has been tasked with answering two questions. First, what are countries legally obliged to do to protect the climate and environment for human-caused greenhouse gas emissions? And second, what are the legal consequences for governments when their lack of action harms the climate and environment? We'll hear the World Court's answer in just a few hours. Japan has something Canada wants, a new trade deal with the United States and a significant reduction in the tariffs it will face starting August 1st. The deal was announced late yesterday, and the other leaders who received tariff threat letters from U.S. President Donald Trump are looking closely at the details. The CBC's Janice McGregor is poring over the fine print in Washington. And Janice, what should Canadians be taking away from this deal that was struck with Japan?
Marcia, let's start with the compromise on the across-the-board tariff rate. 15% is a significant step down from the 25% that Donald Trump's letter had threatened to add to the price of Japanese imports. Now, this lower rate is going to be less punishing for the American consumers and businesses that have to pay it, but this deal is landing higher than the 10% tariff that was previously hitting Japanese cars and auto parts. Unlike the UK, Japan did not agree to a quota that will limit its future automotive growth. Trump's also touting an apparent $550 billion that Japanese companies will invest in the U.S. We already know about a deal to inject just under $15 billion in a Japanese takeover of U.S. steel. Will automotive supply chain investments now follow? Could that shift investments away from Canada's industry? Here's Trump last night.
We worked on it long and hard, and it's a great deal for everybody. A lot different from the deals in the past, I can tell you that.
Japan had to make a historic concession to land this, helping Trump deliver for American farmers by opening up access to its notoriously protected rice market.
Trump's letter to Canada threatens a 35% tariff starting August 1st. What's the state of our government's negotiations?
Yeah, remember, the economic urgency isn't quite as dire as that 35% sounds. With the notable exception of steel, aluminum, softwood lumber, goods that comply with CUSMA are exempt from Trump's current threats. But talks continue in earnest, trying to end the uncertainty over all this. The lead minister, Dominic LeBlanc, expected back in Washington for more meetings today and tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Washington. Canada's premiers are about to sit down for the third and final day of their meeting in Huntsville, Ontario. Today, they are shifting their attention from U.S. trade to national issues, including internal trade, public safety, and healthcare. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is preparing to resume peace talks with Russia. Zelensky says he has discussed plans for a prisoner exchange with his Secretary for National Security and Defense Council. Turkey is holding the talks that are expected to begin today. Moscow says it does not expect any breakthroughs. The families of 2 men killed by Nunavik police are demanding a meeting with Quebec's premier. They want changes within the police service following 3 fatal shootings in the region. Among their list of proposed reforms is disarming the local police. Samuel Watt reports.
David Ananak says he told his son Mark to stop evading police in their village of Kangaksualujuwak. He says Mark did stop running in early May, but that's when it all turned horribly wrong.
He got shot 2 times.
Mark died shortly after. Ananak says his son had broken the law before, but he had a good heart.
He'd been very nice to everyone, very helpful, and he was on the first responders before.
Now, Ananak has co-signed a letter with the family of another police shooting victim. They want to meet with Quebec's premier and they have 3 demands. They want the province to disarm Nunavik police, launch a full public commission inquiry into the police service, and create a team to work towards reconciliation.
If they carry firearm on their side going on the street, they're going to kill more.
The letter follows a fatal police shooting in Inukjuak last week. That's the 3rd such death in 8 months. Inukjuak Mayor Bobby Ipu says the death is still very fresh.
Other family members from our neighboring community arrived by boat over the weekend. They are still in shock. They're still mourning.
Quebec's Minister of Public Security, Francois Bonnardel, says the province is closely watching the eroding sense of trust in the police service. There is an independent audit into Nunavik police underway. Bonnardel says his department will support its implementation. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The man accused of killing 11 people at a Vancouver festival in April will be back in court today. Kai G. Adam Lowe is now facing 11 counts of second-degree murder. Lowe is accused of driving his SUV into a crowd of people at the festival. A 2-day hearing begins today to determine if he is mentally fit to stand trial. Lindsay Duncombe reports.
What happened that April evening when an SUV rammed into a crowd at Vancouver's Lapu Lapu Day Festival brought grief to so many. 11 people were killed, many more injured. Today's hearing will determine if the man accused is fit to stand trial for murder. Tony Paisana teaches law at the University of British Columbia. He explains the hearing this way.
So you're trying to figure out whether the person understands the nature and consequences of what's going on, and whether they can communicate with their lawyer in such a way that they can make rational decisions about how the case is going to proceed.
In a statement issued 3 days after the attack, Vancouver Coastal Health said Lowe was under the supervision of a mental health care team. Health officials said the best known information at the time is that there was no indication of violence in his presentation or a recent change in his condition. Lowe's lawyer requested this hearing and says his client's mental health has been assessed in custody. Paisana expects experts will testify about the accused's behavior behind bars.
It is a snapshot, as it were, of the person's functioning at a particular point in time.
He describes it as a snapshot because an accused's fitness for trial can change. Someone deemed able to go to trial can later become unfit and vice versa. The hearing is scheduled for 2 days. A publication ban is expected to cover much of what is discussed in court. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You are with CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Smoky today, and it's going to be a little wet and rainy again. Abby's got your forecast in just a moment. This hour on the show, let's talk bees. The West Broadway Farmers Market's going to be buzzing after a workshop that seeks to inspire people to be more like bees. What's that about? We're going to hear from a beekeeper about her craft and also where you can take part in this if you want to. In addition, this hour on the show, on our medical column, don't wear orange and eat bananas in the great outdoors. Why? Well, those tips could actually help you avoid mosquito bites. Dr. Bardwaj is doing a bit of a summer series for us on the medical column, so today it's all about mosquitoes. And I know you're thinking, we're in Manitoba, we know everything. He surprised me, people, so stay tuned. He's going to be coming up right before 7 o'clock. Let's find out what's making news this morning. Matt Humphreys in with our headlines.
Good morning. Manitoba's premier says he would like to have Ottawa as a partner on a large Arctic trade corridor through the Port of Churchill, but the project could go ahead without federal financial support, he says. Manitoba and Saskatchewan have signed a memorandum to expand trade through Churchill in a 5-year deal, which also includes the owner of the port and the northern rail line leading to it. We'll hear more details at 6:30. And a busy intersection in Winnipeg's St. Vital area will be closing for hours-long stretches overnight this week. The corner of Abinogi-Meekina and St. Mary's Road will be under heavy road construction until next Tuesday. Every night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., the intersection will be down to 1 lane of traffic. We'll hear more details at the bottom of the hour.
People will hate that until they love it and it's fixed.
And it just opened just now.
Yeah, right?
Right? So we're back to regular. There you go.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Back
At least it's not during rush hours.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
at least.
Yeah. Matt Humphrey with our news headlines. All right, let's get into this smoky, rainy forecast. A little bit less than yesterday, but still. Abby Adiyami's here. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Yes, smoke in the air. We still have air quality warnings in effect today. Unlike yesterday, we have it more like across most of the province. We're talking about from the north all the way into the central part of the province, and we're going to be noticing it even in the southern part of the province. Now, this is due to ongoing fires in spots across the province, and this smoke will be impacting communities and regions around the Pa, Flin Flon, Thompson, Churchill, Gillam, Norway House. And if we're looking at the southern part of the province, we're going to be seeing smoke even here in Winnipeg. If you look at the map right now, you can notice the smoke there. It's going to spread towards Brandon and even Dauphin. Gimli will be feeling the smoke as well. And this is going to be making the air very unhealthy to breathe, reducing visibility at some point. I checked the air quality health index just before 6 o'clock. We are looking at +6, +7 in some areas. And Winnipeg, some areas in Winnipeg already reading +10. So you need to take care because this will be posing serious risk to your health. So you might want to change your plans or plan accordingly. Now, conditions in Winnipeg, 16 degrees, cloudy outside. We should see some showers move in sometime this morning. And these mainly cloudy conditions will be hanging around with us with more showers in the forecast. But today will be more like a hazy day for the city and even the southern part of the province. We're already seeing temperatures between 13 and 17 degrees. But Winnipeg is at 16 right now. We're seeing 12 degrees in the 10 and 12 in the northern part of the province. And we'll see temperatures close to 25 degrees across most of the regions today.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
And Sierra Sanders is in now to have a look at our commute beyond what Matt was mentioning there. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy to hear that Abinogi-Meekina has opened for now for another 12 hours, and then it unfortunately closes.
Yeah, we'll be
again.
okay during the morning rush.
We'll be okay during the morning rush. But again, if there's something getting in your way out there, there's nothing developing right now. But if there is something that you see or something that is slowing you down, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned up first this half hour, a Winnipeg-based honey producer is hoping to share her love and passion for bees. Prairie Sweetheart Honey is hosting a free workshop. It's happening today. It's called Honeybees, Beekeeping, and the Power of Working Together. Owner Rebecca Kowalski says she wants others to feel inspired about bees in an educational setting, and she's up early via Zoom to talk about it. Good morning.
Good morning.
So a lot of people are afraid of bees. You love them. Where does your love for bees come from?
Oh, I guess I got into bees. I've been working with them for about 10 years now, but I've been learning about bees for probably another 10 years before that. And so, the more I work with them, the more fascinated I am. I feel like the more I know or learn, the less I know, because the world of bees is so massive.
Part of this comes from, I understand, a little bit of a personal connection with your mom. You had a book called The Secret Life of Bees.
So basically, it was in 2004 that I was doing a project. I was in the Cree-Com course at Red River, and I was doing a project on bees. I was doing the health benefits of royal jelly and pollen. And my mom always had a way of supporting me no matter what I did. So she bought me this book, The Secret Life of Bees. And so then the book took on new meaning when she went away to Guatemala, and she was leading a tour that was called Search for the Soul. And she was actually warning her passengers for about an hour prior about the strong undertow on the beach in this really small town in Guatemala. And so one of her passengers called out for help, and she went to go and help them. And in doing that, finally a small fishing boat came, and they got the woman in who she went out to save, but she herself lost her life. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was, my mom was everything, as many moms are. And so she always was just such a force. And so it was a huge loss in our lives. But that book, in the end, the last thing she gave me turned out to be about, I don't know if you've read it before, but it's about a little girl who loses her mom, and she finds love in different ways. And so one of these ways that she finds them is through this community of women beekeepers and the bees themselves. And so woven throughout the book, beautifully written, are all these messages of love and healing and grief and loss, but also these real, true bee facts that are fascinating. And so as I reread that book, because as you can imagine, I read it a million times.
Yeah.
These bee facts kept coming out to me, and the mystery of the bees and everything. And so I didn't get into it right away. But years later, I took the beekeeping for the hobbyist course, and I followed through with it. So,
and here you are now. I can't.
Here I am now. Yeah.
I walked into that question with a smile, and I apologize because obviously I was asking you about, the story of your mom, but I was thinking about the book and your love of it coming from your mom. But thank you so much for sharing what happened to her, and how incredible that you're in some ways following, in the footsteps of this character in the book, right? In your love and, in your love for bees now and beekeeping. Have you found community through it as well, beyond the fascination with bees?
Oh my goodness, so much community everywhere. Like the beekeeping community themselves. It's funny because every beekeeper I've met loves their bees as much as I do. And so many of us have our story of how we got into the bees. And sometimes you think, okay, these commercial bee guys have 4,000 hives compared to like 10 hives that I have. And they love their bees every bit as much as, a hobbyist does, or it's just, we're all in it for the good of the bees. And it really has broadened my community. And I also have intern program, and so
I was going to interject here and mention some of those things, because we're talking about educational sessions that are coming up, workshops, this free one, but you actually have sessions with communities, schools, you go to homes with people who are elderly. How do people respond when you're teaching them about bees?
By the time I finish my sessions, everyone's in love with the bees. Truly, the kids are so smart. Lately, when I'm starting the sessions, they know so much about bees already, and they're so excited to learn more. So I lead those ones mostly with their questions, and I kind of make sure I get a lot of the, cool things about bees I want to share with them in there. But really, their questions lead the way. They're so interested in our pollinators. And I mean, for the schools, I kind of dress like a bee. And I got this funny little bee car that everybody loves. And even in the...
Okay, hang on a minute. What's a funny little bee car? Is it painted like a bee, or is it yellow, or is it like what makes it?
It's bright yellow. It's from Japan, so it's a right-hand drive. And it's a Toyota Scion XB is what it is, 2001 vehicle. So it's a bit of a head turner. And then I also had it deckled up, so it's got bees all over it.
Oh, it's so much fun. What do you hope people take away from a workshop like the one you're hosting today that people can check out at 4:00 at the West Broadway Farmers Market?
I really want people to know a little bit about bees and what it goes in what goes into managing an apiary in a responsible way. But in addition to that, I want them to feel inspired by the bees, because really, truly, how they work together as one super organism is something that we as human beings can learn from. There's no judgment. You brought in more pollen than I did, or my job's way more important than you as a cleaner bee and I'm a forager, or the colors or the sizes, they work together to produce a miraculous amount of honey, this tiny little insect. And so I really want to inspire people through that so that we as humans can learn and start working better together.
And we need to protect them, man, because I've done so many interviews about our pollinators and about neonicotinoids. I think I'm saying that right, and all the other harms, right? So I love this. So many stories. Before you go this morning, I need to mention, Rebecca, for our radio audience, because you're on Zoom, what you're wearing, because I love that you got up early and did that for us. So yellow sweatshirt. I think your necklace is a bee. And are your ears like honeycomb hive, maybe? Are your earrings?
Yeah, I make these earrings. They're actually little bees on the bottom of it and honeycombs too.
They're so cute.
Yeah, I'm bee everything.
I love that you're bee everything. Thank you so much for being with us this morning and sharing your story and for sharing your knowledge about bees. As mentioned, important to protect them and to learn. So have fun today. Enjoy it. Still space if people want to show up, or do they have to sign up first?
No, absolutely. They can come on out to West Broadway for 4 p.m. Thanks for having me, Marcy.
Thank you so much for being with us. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
That's Rebecca Koralski with us, owner and beekeeper for Prairie Sweetheart Honey. So she mentioned she's going to have her informational session today at the West Broadway Farmers Market. If you want to learn more about beekeeping, what goes into it, and so many fascinating facts about bees, 4 o'clock today. It is free. And also you can check out her social media and visit their website at prairiesweethearthoney.com.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
Personally, from CBC Podcasts, allows you to get lost in someone else's life. From a mysterious childhood spent on the run to a courageous escape from domestic violence, each season of Personally invites you to explore the human experience in all its complexity, one story or season at a time. This is what it sounds like to be human. Find Personally on the CBC Listen app and everywhere you get your podcasts.
6:24 a.m. It's 16 degrees in Winnipeg and in Brandon, both expecting a chance of rain. Smoke in the air in Thompson and 10 degrees. Also widespread smoke here in the south today, so the winds have shifted. Yesterday we didn't have as much, but today a little more. You're going to notice that. Well, next on the program, let's turn to international news. UN officials have said that over 1,000 Palestinians have been killed since May while trying to get food into the Gaza Strip, or get food rather in the Gaza Strip. While cases of deaths due to starvation are also mounting. And Canada has now, as you might have heard, joined 27 other countries to demand that Israel ends the blockade and its military operations in Gaza. To talk about life in Gaza, though, this morning, Jesse Rosenfeld is with us, Canadian journalist and regular contributor to Rolling Stone magazine. Today he joins us from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Good morning. Hello.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit more about what you're hearing from your contacts on the ground about the situation.
Well, in terms of the level of starvation right now, it's hit an acute phase. Everyone I talk to across Gaza, whether it's in Gaza City, central Gaza, or the south, is malnourished and hungry. Doctors tell me about how they themselves are sharing, international doctors are sharing their meals and eating, paste and rice once a day. You have reports of doctors, medical staff fainting on the job site while treating patients for starvation because they themselves are so weak. You have the AFP that just released a statement yesterday saying that its journalists in Gaza are starving. And the people that I talk to, they can't feed their kids. They have maybe a meal a day, which consists of a little bit of rice and some bread, if that, and they are risking their lives to get aid from these aid stations that are basically turning into death traps where the Israelis regularly shoot Palestinians systematically who are trying to get aid, as well as being shot by the international security organizations that have been hired at the aid sites. I have doctors telling me about getting all sorts of casualties where one day they'll get only casualty or majority of casualties from aid sites where there's shots to the head. The next day, the majority will be to the groin, all indicating that Israeli soldiers and possibly these contractors are using Palestinians for target practice. So, people who are so desperate for food, they're actually dying in line to get it.
So your description of who is shooting people while they're in line for food is coming directly from what you're hearing from doctors on the ground or from people who have witnessed who is shooting who? I just need to be very careful here on the air and clear.
Yeah, no, I've heard from several doctors who at Nasser Hospital will talk about at a particular aid distribution point near Rafah on the edge of Al-Mawasi, which is a declared Israeli safe zone that the Israelis continuously bomb, that they're getting consistent casualties where all the casualties, or the vast majority, over 90%, will be to a particular body part on a given day.
Got it.
And they're and this is on top of a systematic bombing campaign that's trying to force starving people out of northern Gaza, out of central Gaza, into the areas around the south.
Israel's defense minister and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as you know, have proposed building a large camp now for Palestinians near the southern border. What might that signal?
Well, according to former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, who was the first Israeli Prime Minister to go to war in Gaza, it's a concentration camp. According to the UN, it's a concentration zone, and according to the Gazans that I talked to, it's a death trap that they won't enter. For Palestinians, it signifies the final stage of their expulsion, where they are going to be herded into a city that has been leveled to the ground, designed that could barely hold 250,000 people in better times pre-war. When I was in Rafah is actually the most crowded city I have ever been in when its population was 250,000, and they want to cram 2 million people into there to force them to eventually leave. It, for Palestinians, is the final stage of the genocide.
Where do we go from here? It sounds like a silly question, but I started by talking about the role of the international community and what is continuing to happen in Gaza. Right. What is needed from the international community immediately?
Mm-hmm. Well, for Palestinians, these letters and these condemnations from Western allies of Israel are far too little, far too late. I was talking to a woman, Noor Al Yakubi. She's a writer who's living in Gaza City. She has a toddler who won't stop crying because her toddler is hungry, and she said to me, every government and country that did not take action to help us and stop this genocide are criminals just like Israel. And we will never forgive them. And that's Canada right now. We've done nothing to our trade relations with Israel. We do not investigate Israeli Canadian citizens in any sort of serious way. Israeli Canadians who've served in this war in Gaza in the Israeli army and are suspected of war crimes. We do not ban trading with Israeli tech companies that are central to Israel's military campaign. And our government won't take any diplomatic action, whether it's tearing up its free trade agreement with Israel or expelling ambassadors. So we don't do anything, and we seem to be okay with that.
And that's some of the action you're looking for. We're close to news time, Jesse. Thank you very much for your perspective and for your reporting. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
That is Jesse Rosenfeld, Canadian journalist. He's a regular contributor to Rolling Stone magazine, speaking with CBC this morning about what he has been seeing and hearing and his perspective and opinion on what is unfolding in Gaza. He joined us this morning from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Your CBC Winnipeg News, we're a little late getting to it. Apologies. Is next at 6:31.
This is CBC News. At 6:31, we're at 16 degrees with an air quality warning in downtown Winnipeg. We're expecting widespread smoke today. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. Premier Wab Kinew is in Huntsville, Ontario to meet with other premiers at the Council of the Federation meeting. He signed 4 separate MOUs with Saskatchewan, British Columbia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. The premiers of Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta signed their own joint MOU to build more energy infrastructure, including pipelines and a port. Kinew says he met yesterday with Ontario's Doug Ford and Scott Moe of Saskatchewan, and he says he spoke with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith about their shared economic priorities.
So we're definitely all on the same page in terms of wanting to build up Canada and build up our economy. And I think right now, each province and territory and region and the federal government are taking the approaches that we think are going to best position us for success.
Kinew says Manitoba's approach involves working with Indigenous nations to build consensus on projects. He says he did not want to join yesterday's agreement with Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta before Manitoba secures buy-in from Indigenous nations on its own mega projects. The intersection of Abinogi-Meekina and St. Mary's Road is going to be under heavy construction for the next several days. Every night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., the intersection will be down to 1 lane of traffic and some days closed altogether. One daily commuter, Jasjeet Brar, says the work is definitely adding to his drive time.
It's only going down to 1 lane. I can only imagine even just a short commute, like today's commute, is supposed to be only like 5-7 minutes, but already it's probably been closer to 15 minutes, so not looking forward to that.
The city says the work can't start any later than 6 p.m. because some of the work has to be done in the daylight. The goal is to do the work overnight and have the intersection open every morning for rush hour. And as premiers continue to meet in Ottawa, they're expected to shift their focus today, now discussing health care and bail reform during their final day of meetings. Olivia Stefanovic has your details.
Outside the lakefront Ontario Cottage Country Resort hosting premiers, dozens of healthcare workers demonstrate on the side of the road, demanding their concerns be heard.
The wait times, people are dying, waiting for surgeries, the ERs, they're closing ERs up here in the north.
Jillian Watt is the president of a local union. Over the last 2 days, premiers barely made any public mention of healthcare as they're absorbed by the trade war with the U.S. But healthcare is on the agenda for the final day of meetings, along with bail reform.
And I'm grateful to know that priority is shared by the Prime Minister.
BC Premier David Eby says he delivered a letter to the Prime Minister from the family of Bailey McCourt, a Kelowna mother whose violent death is sparking both outrage and calls to change the justice system. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Huntsville, Ontario.
And finally, a Winnipeg man wants the city to do more to control tall grass and weeds growing in vacant lots. This comes on the heels of other homeowners being warned and in some cases charged for not cutting grass on occupied properties. James Bothwell has been living in Winnipeg's West End for the past 4 years. He worries the tall grass in his neighbor's empty lot poses safety hazards, and it's not nice to look at. Bothwell says the city cut the grass twice last year, but hasn't this year.
To be honest, I've seen it worse than this.
my window overlooks it, and I never look out my window, so.
The city says vacant lots and properties are enforced to the same standards as occupied ones. It's received 2 complaints about Bothwell's neighbor this year, and it also issued a compliance order. The owner of the lot told CBC they're not in Canada right now and will deal with the tall grass when they return. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right, thanks a lot, Matt.
Back soon.
Matt Humphrey in our news department. And now with our regional forecast, here's Abby Adeyemi.
Good morning. We're looking at smoke across the province today. Haze will continue to spread from north to south. Conditions at this point, Winnipeg 16 degrees, and that's what we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, the Westman region, the Parkland, the Interlake region, from Brandon all the way down to Gimli. We're seeing temperatures hover between 16 and 17, and most of the regions in the south will be seeing temperatures climb close to around 24 degrees today, while up north, we're just seeing temperatures around 10 and 11 degrees.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Traffic, so far so good and so early. Call us, though, if you do see any major problems at 788-3093. You can reach Sierra on the traffic line. Well, it's time for business news. Christy Ramlakan, who's here with our report this morning. Hi to you.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So U.S. President Donald Trump has set an August 1st trade deadline. We all likely know this and have heard the date. It's coming up, though. Do we think we're actually going to see a deal with Canada by then?
Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney says he'll only sign a U.S. trade deal in the best interest of Canadians. So he insists his government will only sign a new agreement if there is one worth signing. So, yeah, the prospect of Canada reaching a trade deal by that August 1st deadline appears uncertain right now. Now, Carney made these remarks after dropping into the first ministers' meeting that's happening in Ontario's cottage country right now, where he briefed premiers on the government's trade discussions with the Trump administration. So Ontario Premier Doug Ford is hosting the premiers to discuss their own response to the trade war. And Carney says a good deal would reinforce the country's long-standing and successful trading relationship with the U.S., while not preventing Canada from expanding the country's relationships around the world. So he says other countries want to do more with Canada. And Carney says he's had more than 80 bilateral meetings with world leaders since he became prime minister. So Carney says Canada's economic response to Trump's tariffs so far is built on 2 tracks. So 1, supporting affected industries such as lumber, steel, auto manufacturing, and aluminum production. And then 2, ensuring Canada's economy grows by breaking down internal trade barriers and quickly approving major projects.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen at the rest of the Premier's meeting today. Sales, to another story here, sales of American alcohol, meantime, continue to drop in Canada. But there's a trade group, I understand, that says the entire North American industry is affected. Why is that? Can you break it down?
Yeah, so boycotts of U.S. spirits have caused a sharp drop in sales of imports. But a Canadian Liquor Trade Group says there's also been a drop in domestic sales. So sales of U.S. spirits dropped 66% between March 5th, so that's when provinces announced they would stop carrying the products, and the end of April. And that's according to this analysis by Spirits Canada. And the group, which represents manufacturers and marketers of spirits, says total spirit sales in Canada, though, also fell almost 13% during that same time period. But, analysts say the drop could indicate broader economic stress or shifts in consumer behavior. So they say the overall increase in the cost of living could have led to more cautious spending on non-essential items like alcohol. And we know there's also been a larger trend of Canadians buying less alcohol overall. But still, the group says the North American spirit sector is highly interconnected and that the removal of U.S. spirits is deeply problematic for producers on both sides of the border. But 2 provinces, Alberta and Saskatchewan, have actually resumed selling U.S. spirits.
Not here yet, not in Manitoba yet. Finally, the price of our chocolate bars could be going up.
Yeah, that's right. So Hershey says it is hiking chocolate prices. Hershey says it is raising prices by a percentage in the lower double-digit range. The culprit, high cocoa prices. So cocoa futures rose 178% last year. Ghana and Ivory Coast account for almost 60% of the world's cocoa production. And the region has been hit by poor harvests due to weather worsened by climate change. So Hershey says the price increase is not related to tariff or trade policies, but, in its earnings call in May, Hershey said it anticipated $15 to $20 million in tariff costs in the second quarter of this year. But, it's not the only company facing this kind of thing. Swiss chocolatier Lindt said last year that it raised its prices and expected to continue into this year due to record high cocoa costs and weakened consumer sentiment.
Well, there's nothing to do but cut out healthy food so we can buy more chocolate.
Right. Yeah, that's the strategy.
What's going on in the markets this morning?
So we're all in the green here. Markets in Europe are higher. Germany is up. The UK is up. France is up. In Asia, markets are also higher. Japan, Shanghai, and Hong Kong are all up. Oil is down 47 cents to $64.84 US per barrel. Gold is down $6.60 to $3,423.80 US per ounce. And the dollar is up 0.12 of a cent to 73.6 cents US.
All right, Crystal Lee Ramlakan, take care. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Marcy.
That is Crystal Lee Ramlakan at our CBC Business News. It is 6:41 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on that app and on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Great to be back with you after a couple of weeks off. Reminding myself how gorgeous Manitoba is in the summer. I always take tons of time off in the summer. I actually concentrate most of my time off because I just love it here so much when it's nice outside. Just beautiful. So whatever you happen to be out and about doing. Now this summer, of course, lots of issues with fires. So sorry for those folks who are listening and still out of their homes in Manitoba. And we hope you get back soon. Also, just want to mention, thinking about those firefighters. Every time we do an air quality statement here, I'm mindful that there are people that are right in it, right in it in these northern communities and fighting fires. And so we're thinking about you, and hopefully we'll be into better times. Today, though, we, as Abby's been mentioning, still have widespread smoke. It's north and south today. And it's 16 degrees in the city of Winnipeg, 16 over in Brandon, and in Thompson, you're smoky, and 10 degrees right now. We all have a chance of showers here in southern Manitoba, 60% chance here in Winnipeg and Brandon. And then up in Thompson, there is not a chance of showers, just a high of 22 with that smoke hanging around. Still ahead on the program today, coming up in the next hour of the show, speaking of things to do in Manitoba, the Gimli Film Festival is coming up, and he won $10,000 for his movie. Now it will premiere at the Gimli Film Festival. We're going to talk to the filmmaker in the next hour. He now gets to see his work on the big screen after he's been working on it for so long. So stay tuned, and we're going to find out more about his movie and also a little bit more about his story. So stay tuned. That's the next hour of the show this morning. Right now, though, you might have seen some new statistics. These came out yesterday about our province. They suggest that crime went down in Manitoba last year. That's according to Stats Canada. The volume and severity of police-reported crime dropped in 2024 by nearly 4% from the previous year. Now, Michael Weinrath is a criminal justice professor at the University of Winnipeg. He says that any drop in crime stats is a good thing, but he also says that Manitoba and Saskatchewan still lead the country when it comes to serious and violent crimes. Weinrath spoke yesterday with CBC's Arturo Chang.
I think, any sort of decline is a good thing. The other issues, though, I think, with respect to the statistics, is, of course, that we continue to have a very high violent crime severity index and violent crime rate. Ourselves and Saskatchewan, tend to still lead the country. So those obviously are things that are not positive. The other thing I think that's curious, I guess, is that some of the statistics that are in the report nationally and provincially, they actually, if you go back about 10 years to 2014, we were just actually at the end of a decline in a variety of crime statistics. So some of the 10-year averages that look, pretty significant, some of it is partly because of, that we were, pretty low when the period started. On the other hand, clearly the crime rate has escalated over the last 10 years. There was a slight decline at the start of the pandemic when people were staying indoors, and then that has stopped, and we've started to go up. I guess what's interesting though is that some of the serious crime, like the homicide rate, has stabilized or gone down a bit, and also in Winnipeg, I guess, as well. Yeah, the other thing, I guess, that's not a very positive statistic is the shoplifting rate. And so the shoplifting rate, I know it's an issue here in Winnipeg for us. People aggressively going into retail shops and taking things. And again, a lot of people fairly persistent in that. And so we tend to think of that as a Winnipeg problem, but it's not. It's a national problem.
And you mentioned also the homicide rates. I mean, it kind of like stabilized nationally. It actually went down a bit, but in Manitoba overall, the numbers are up as well.
Yeah. So again, I think that's of course of concern because of course again we seem to see homicide as sort of we're Winnipeg centric on that, but there are a lot of issues in the rest of Manitoba and rurally, and a lot of the homicides take place on Indigenous reserves, and again we disproportionately see Indigenous people involved as victims of crime. I mean, I think sometimes it's talked about their overrepresentation in prisons and in the jail, but I mean they're disproportionately victims of crime as well, and that has to be an area of concern, for all levels of government and certainly for people residing in these higher crime areas. Definitely we've seen an overall increase in crime over the last few years. And again, we see, trends going up and down. So I'd like to see, for us to see a real downward trend, you like to see something over like a 5-year period. So although the data is promising, it remains to be seen whether this will be, a positive downward trend.
Michael Weinrath, a professor of criminal justice over at the University of Winnipeg, in conversation with CBC Manitoba's Arturo Chang. If you want to read more about the crime stats, you can go to cbc.ca/Manitoba. And I want to mention that when it comes to some criminal reform, today the premiers, as they continue their meeting, are expected to be talking about bail reform. So we're going to hear a little bit more about that coming up on World Report.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's news app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
I don't even know if I got it. Mosquitoes. Did you recognize the sound right away? Make you all squidgy? You been bit this year yet? Dr. Raj Bhardwaj is doing a bit of a summer series here on CBC's Morning Show with the medical column this month. And next, he's zeroing in on the pesky bloodsuckers. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
Everyone in Manitoba knows mosquitoes. I won't say we know them well and we love them, but we live with them. And obviously, we know they can also pose some health risks. But as far as the nuisance goes, we've been pretty lucky so far. Why don't we start with who gets bitten and bust some myths here maybe. Is it true or not that some people are more prone to getting bitten by a mosquito?
Oh, yeah, it sure seems that way, doesn't it? And the science backs that up. Mosquitoes search us out by zeroing in on a bunch of things, and a lot of it is your smell, and they like some smells more than others. The interesting thing is they can smell CO2, carbon dioxide, which we breathe out. So they detect that. That helps them to zero in on us. Some people breathe out more CO2 than other people. So, for example, a very pregnant person might breathe out about 20% higher levels of CO2 than a non-pregnant person. A person who's exerting themselves, hiking, doing some strenuous yard work, exercising, they'll breathe out more CO2, and that attracts more mosquitoes as well. And then other chemicals can attract them. So things like lactic acid, even certain kinds of body odor, which means that certain foods can actually attract them. So you eat certain foods, you smell different, that attracts them more. The big two, bananas and beer. Those are the two things to maybe avoid if you are all, don't want to attract more mosquitoes. And then the other thing is the color of your clothing can attract them. A study in 2022 showed the mosquitoes were pretty attracted to red and orange clothes compared to other colors like white and blue and green and stuff. And the researchers figured that maybe that's because red and orange look more like skin to a mosquito's eyes, so it could be that. So in a perfect world, I guess you would feed a bunch of bananas to your pregnant friend, give them a red sweater to wear, have them run around the campsite, and then sit away from them.
To your pregnant friend, did you say?
Yeah, because
give
they're
them all
breathing
the risk
out more
factors?
carbon. Give them all the risk factors, and then you go sit
Then
somewhere
you'd be
else. That sounds kind of mean.
And then then you get kicked off the campsite.
Yeah.
What do public health officials advise when it comes to reducing the chance of getting bitten and keeping your friends?
Yeah, keeping your friends. The 3 Ds: drain, dress, and defend. So draining is actually about getting rid of standing water. Mosquitoes like to breed in standing water. They don't fly very far in their lifetime. So drain any standing water. Regularly empty out containers that can hold water, like those little dishes under the flower pots, or kids' toys that might be hanging out in the backyard, bird baths, things like that. Just dump it out once a week. It can take as little as 7 to 10 days for a mosquito to go from an egg in that standing water to a bloodsucker in your face. And it doesn't take a lot of water. Imagine the equivalent of a small coffee cup that's only about a third full of standing water. That's a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes. The second D is dress. So loose fitting clothing is better than skin tight clothes. And of course, long sleeves, long pants are better than short. That's a tough ask though when it's, warm and muggy out. But something to consider, especially if you want to avoid using bug sprays. You can also treat your clothes and, like your tent and things like that if you're going camping with permethrin. Permethrin is another repellent. It will protect you against ticks as well. But remember, it's not to be used on the skin, and it is toxic to cats and fish. So beware of that. And then the third D is defend. So basically repellents. And the big one there is DEET. DEET has been around since the 50s. It's very safe. Just, read the instructions. Don't spray it on your face. Don't get it in your eyes. But DEET gives you hours of protection, and it works by confusing the mosquito's ability to smell you. So it basically camouflages you. But it's like camouflage. It has to be worn correctly. So if I give you a little camouflage neckerchief and say, go hide in the woods from me, that's not going to be very effective. But if I give you a full camo suit and say, go hide in the woods from me, that's going to be much more effective. Same thing with DEET. If you're just sort of, spritzing it in, on your wrists and, behind your neck or something, that's not going to confuse the mosquito. So you need to get it all over. And a higher percentage of DEET doesn't repel them further away. It's not like a force field. A higher percentage lasts longer. So you can choose, which spray you're going to use, which percentage, depending on what you're going to be doing. If I'm going to be in the backyard for a barbecue and it's only going to be a few hours, I might use 10% DEET. That gives me 3 hours of protection. 30% DEET gives me 6 hours. So maybe a better choice if I'm going to be working in the yard all day or going camping or hiking or something. If you don't like DEET, then for sure you can use other repellents. There's picaridin, there's oil of lemon eucalyptus. There's a whole bunch of them out there now that work very well. Just read the label, and some sprays aren't safe for kids under 2, for example. So just read the label and apply properly.
What about repellents that you don't apply to your body, like, citronella candles, the torches and vaporizers, mosquito coils, you name it. Gadgets, or do some of these things legit work?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So they're not as reliable as repellents that you apply to your body, but they are another layer of protection that you could try. Unfortunately, the studies show that citronella candles don't seem to work very well, but diffusers, so those things that basically work by heating up a chemical. So there's a chemical called metofluothrin, and sometimes it's a proprietary mix of chemicals, like in the Thermacell products. So what they do is they heat up the chemicals. Those chemicals diffuse into the air, and they sort of make an area, a zone, where mosquitoes, again, have a hard time on zeroing in on your CO2.
I got to ask you this and stop you there for a sec, because then I breathe that in and I worry about myself breathing that in. Should I be worried about that?
Yeah, I mean, some people certainly do worry about that. They've been tested by the Environmental Protection Agency, and they're approved by Health Canada and stuff. So there's that. The bigger problem for me, honestly, is wind. If it's even a little bit windy, those chemicals are going to blow away and your zone of effectiveness is going to disappear. The other thing about those is it can take about half an hour for the chemicals to disperse and create a zone of protection. So that's something that you could use. What we don't recommend are those bug zappers. One study showed that only about 5% of the bugs they kill are mosquitoes. So that's a lot of extra killing that we don't need to be doing.
Before you go this morning, if you have been bitten and you're likely to get bitten, what is the best way to control the itch in your view?
Yeah, so mosquito bites are itchy because your immune system is reacting to the proteins in the mosquito spit that get injected while they're sucking your blood. And so that's an immune reaction. And interestingly, some people only react badly to certain types of mosquitoes. So you might find that, in the beginning of the year, I'm not too bad. And then I, get as a different species of mosquito comes out, my bites get worse, or vice versa. Or people say, it's never bad when I'm at home, but I go travel to BC and it's terrible. That's because they have a different, species that's out at the time. So it's an immune response. So you can actually settle that itch with non-drowsy antihistamines like cetirizine, Reactine. You can also do this thing where you apply heat to the bite immediately. And that can sometimes destroy the proteins so that your immune system doesn't mount an immune response in the first place. But you have to be careful not to burn yourself. So there was this tiny study done in 2023. They looked at a device that heats the area around a bite to about 50 degrees Celsius for about 5 seconds. And they found that it reduced the itch by about 50%. The study was funded by the people who make the device, though. So the best option is still to not let the little suckers, get your blood in the first place.
Take care. Thanks.
See ya.
Dr. Raj Bhardwaj with our medical column on mosquitoes. I know I learned a thing or two. I don't know about you. I've never applied heat to my mosquito bites, so I might think about that. And then bananas and beer. I wonder if that was the same if you have non-alcoholic beer. Maybe I have to test that out. 4 minutes to 7 o'clock now on 89.3 FM. Let's go to Matt Humphrey, who's going to be joining us from our news center with headlines in just a moment. Actually, let's dip into our forecast first, then we'll go to Matt. So we have 16 degrees in Winnipeg. It's partly cloudy right now. Our high today is 24, with Humidex going to feel like 26. We have a 60% chance we're going to see some showers early this morning, and there is widespread smoke. I was just asking Abby about it. Yesterday, it was pretty much the north getting more of the smoke. Today, it's the whole province, so extending through Winnipeg and the south here as well. Over in Brandon, chance of showers for you, high 22. In Thompson, smoky and a high of 22, but no chance of showers where we need it, unfortunately, once again. All right, Matt Humphrey is here now with our headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. As Winnipeggers are warned to keep their grass short or face bylaw fines, some residents are wondering why some vacant lots are consistently overgrown. Officials say vacant lots are enforced to the same standards as occupied properties, and the city has gotten around 4,000 calls about overgrown grass so far this year. We'll have more news after World Report.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Always mow my lawn.
Do you?
Well, I have a push mower, so it's how I get my cardio in there.
Oh, I like that.
It's
I
a
like
little
that. You're
lawn,
old school.
too, yeah.
My husband, we have a little patch of lawn, and he's got the little electric one
Nice.
now. So yeah, I think he just loves using it more than mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
Probably because it's kind of fun to pull it out after lots of years of using the cord and the gas and
When
dealing
you get
with that.
a new toy too, you kind of have to. Yeah.
But you're old school with the push mower.
Yeah, and it's dull.
Props.
Yeah.
Get it sharpened. Is there anyone old school that can do that? That's all those skills that go missing, right?
And I like the challenge.
Okay, you like mowing your grass with a dull blade. I've
Yeah.
never heard this before.
Back soon.
Let's get into what's happening in traffic. Not much, which is good. 788-3093 is where you can reach us. In the next hour of Information Radio, we're going to be having an exit interview of sorts with longtime political commentator and professor in Manitoba, Paul Thomas. He's announced his retirement. Stay with us. We're going to look at 50 years of observing and researching politics in this province and also advising many politicians and premiers along the way. So stay tuned for that. Also in the next hour, a winning pitch and $10,000 later, a local filmmaker is having a world premiere at the Gimli Film Festival. We're going to find out how he's feeling and hear more about his film. And then at 10 to 8, a continuing conversation we're having here on the show. Last week, Mayor Scott Gillingham talked about how he wishes that there was more places for people to be housed to help with our homelessness strategy, and we can't build quick enough. However, what if we could put people in short-term spaces? What is the role of landlords in this conversation? Would landlords be willing, for example, to overlook rental and employment histories to open units to unhoused people? Manitoba's Property Managers Association says it comes down to wraparound supports, and they will join us to be part of this conversation in the next hour. So stay with us.
Today on The Current.
And tomorrow you may make it a crime to read about it, and soon you may ban books and newspapers.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. It's the 100th anniversary of the Scopes monkey trial in the U.S. that looked at whether evolution could be taught in the classroom. Today, there's tension again between science, religion, and education. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Next hour, judges at the World Court will hand down a historic opinion on climate change. It will lay out what countries are obligated to do to protect the climate and environment, as well as legal consequences for governments whose inaction harms the environment. 96 countries have weighed in on the issue, a record number. Lauren Commute reports from The Hague.
The climate minister of Vanuatu, one of the small, stinking Pacific Island nations that instigated this case, says this ruling from the World Court will help people worldwide who have been fighting climate change in the courts. Ralph Reagan-Vanu.
Every court, this will be something they can use, whether it's a municipal level court or a state level court. They will be able to use this new ruling to try to make governments be more accountable and do more.
Vanuatu argued before judges in The Hague that legal action is necessary to curb an existential threat it played almost no role in creating. Pacific Island student activist Cynthia Hawihi asked judges at those same hearings to apply the law.
You possess the power to help us course correct and renew hope in humanity's ability to address the greatest challenge of our time.
They want an end to fossil fuels and restitution for the small nations bearing the brunt of climate extremes. But many big emitters, like the U.S. and Canada, argue the court should defer to the legal agreements on climate change already in place, including the Paris Agreement. Climate activists say those are ineffective. Although the court's opinion is non-binding, legal experts agree it will likely influence litigation worldwide. Some 3,000 climate-related cases have been filed across almost 60 countries. Lauren Commute for CBC News, The Hague.
CBC News has learned a $68 million immigration project was unexpectedly shut down last year. The goal was to revamp Canada's outdated asylum system and enhance border integrity. But documents show the project was only partially finished. As Priscilla Kisang-Kwang reports, critics worry the abandoned project will cause more problems for people seeking protection.
I want to reform the system. It's not working in the way it should.
That's former Immigration Minister Mark Miller last November on Canada's asylum system plagued with inefficiencies. But just a few months before that public statement, the Immigration Department, IRCC, quietly halted its asylum interoperability project at about 2/3 complete. It was a partnership with border agency CBSA and the Immigration and Refugee Board. Access to information documents show CBSA called the move unexpected. That $68 million project sought to create real-time information sharing to improve workflow, border security, and to help refugee claimants move through the backlog. The government says it's achieved some of those improvements, but today, that backlog is at a historic high with more than 288,000 claims pending as of last month. Refugee lawyer Wei Will Tao.
Again, the first question is if these tools are so effective and being implemented, then why do we still have this backlog?
Syed Hassan is with the Migrant Rights Network. He says it's actually harder for people on the ground now.
It increases deportations, and it's part of a broader turn rightward towards Trump-like policies.
CBSA, the Refugee Board, and IRCC declined an interview, but in a statement, the Immigration Ministry said it hopes the Liberal government's new legislation, the Strong Borders Act, will build on the foundations of this abandoned project. Priscilla Kisang-Kwang, CBC News, Ottawa.
Japan has now negotiated its way out of U.S. President Donald Trump's broad 25% tariff and successfully reached a deal with the United States.
簡単な交渉ではありませんでしたが、しかし、緊密な日米間の協議を
Japan's lead trade negotiator says the talks were not simple, but the final agreement serves both countries. Japanese cars and other goods exported to the U.S. will now face just a 15% tariff. And in exchange, Japan will invest $550 billion in the U.S. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba is celebrating being the first country to reduce tariffs on automobiles and auto parts with no limits on volume. Canada's premiers are shifting their attention from U.S. trade talks today. They are focusing on national issues, including healthcare and bail reform. This is the final day of the First Minister's meeting in Huntsville, Ontario, and Olivia Stefanovic is there.
Outside the lakefront Ontario Cottage Country Resort hosting premiers, dozens of healthcare workers demonstrate on the side of the road, demanding their concerns be heard.
The wait times, people are dying, waiting for surgeries, the ERs, they're closing ERs up here in the north.
Jillian Watt is the president of a local union, representing hundreds of hospital staff.
We're here protesting for healthcare, to stand up for healthcare.
Over the last 2 days, premiers barely made any public mention of healthcare, as they're absorbed by the trade war with the U.S., but healthcare is on the agenda for the final day of meetings, along with bail reform.
And I'm grateful to know that priority is shared by the Prime Minister.
BC Premier David Eby says he delivered a letter to the Prime Minister yesterday from the family of Bailey McCourt, a Kelowna mother whose violent death is sparking both outrage and calls to change the justice system, since the accused, McCourt's ex-partner, was released from custody just before the attack.
There's a special place in hell for men that murder and attack their spouses or girlfriends.
The federal government is promising new legislation with stricter bail conditions by the fall. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Huntsville, Ontario.
Protesters yell, "Veto the bill," as they gather in Kiev. They are demonstrating against a government bill revoking the autonomy of 2 anti-corruption agencies. The bill would place the agencies under the direct authority of the prosecutor general. They're directly appointed by the president. Critics say it will open the door to government meddling. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is preparing to resume peace talks with Russia.
Сьогодні я обговорив з Рустемом Умєровим.
Zelensky says he has discussed plans for a prisoner exchange with his Secretary for National Security and Defense Council. The peace talks happen today in Turkey. Moscow says it does not expect any breakthroughs. More than 250 people are being reunited with their families in Venezuela. They were deported from the United States in March and freed from an El Salvador prison late last week. People wept and cheered as they hugged their loved ones for the first time in months. One man told reporters the conditions were like hell in the El Salvador prison. He says they were beaten and abused. These deported migrants were freed as part of a prisoner swap with the U.S. They were released in exchange for 10 U.S. citizens and dozens of political prisoners who were jailed in Venezuela. A doctor charged in the death of Matthew Perry is expected to plead guilty today. He's considered to be one of the main figures in the actor's death. The 54-year-old died of a ketamine overdose in October of 2023. Steve Futterman is following the case.
Dr. Salvador Plasencia is expected to plead guilty to multiple charges of distribution of ketamine. He is one of 5 people indicted last year in connection with Perry's 2023 death. Plasencia is accused of working with the others in supplying Perry with the drug starting around 1 month before he died. When the charges were announced last year, the then U.S. Attorney here in Los Angeles, Martina Estrada, said all of those accused were well aware of Perry's substance abuse problems.
These defendants took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction issues to enrich themselves. In the end, these defendants were more interested in profiting off Mr. Perry than caring for his well-being.
Earlier, 3 other defendants also agreed to plead guilty. After Plasencia enters his plea today, the only defendant remaining will be a woman described as a drug dealer. Police have labeled her the ketamine queen. Plasencia faces up to 40 years in prison. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Los Angeles.
That is the sound of white storks in Denmark. The birds were once extinct in the country, but now they're making a comeback. The Nordic country is seeing its highest number of nestlings in decades. Hans Gau is a member of the Storks Denmark board.
This year is something really special because we have 13 pairs with 33 nestlings, and that's the highest number since 86. It's 51 years since there was storks here breeding.
The population rebound of white storks in Denmark is being attributed to changing migration patterns, mainly due to warmer weather. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on a smoky day. And again, a day that's going to be rainy in Manitoba, but not in the right places in the south here. Thanks for being with us. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. This is your morning show, and this hour on it, we're going to continue a conversation about how to speed up housing starts for people who are unhoused, get them out of encampments and into housing. The mayor on the show last week was saying that we're not building spaces fast enough. So what's the role of landlords in maybe the interim? Could rental units be freed up to try and get people with roofs over their heads? Would landlords be willing, for example, to overlook things like a lack of rental or employment history to open up units for unhoused people? Manitoba's Property Managers Association says it comes down to wraparound supports being available. So we're going to have a conversation with them about that this hour. But first, Manitoba professor Paul Thomas is retiring after more than 50 years. We're going to get some of his insights into Manitoba politics. So we're giving him a bit of a pop quiz, like who is Canada's most Manitoba's most polarizing politician or premier? And in his view, who does he think is the most memorable premier? And this is all through the lens of who he covered, and he advised many of them. So stay tuned. We're going to have hear that special conversation with Paul Thomas coming up. Right now, Matt Humphrey's in with headlines and news of the day. Good morning.
Good morning. Premier Wab Kinew says Manitoba has an advantage over other provinces when it comes to establishing an Arctic trade corridor. Kinew and the Premier of Saskatchewan have signed an agreement to upgrade infrastructure, modernize supply chains, and increase access to global markets through the Port of Churchill. The port is the only in Canada with an Arctic seaport serviced by rail. We'll hear more about the announcement at the bottom of the hour. And week-long disruptions are expected at the intersection of Abinogi-Meekina and St. Mary's Road in Winnipeg. We're expecting overnight work every night between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. We'll hear more at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Back soon.
Abby, what's up in the forecast?
We have smoky concerns across large parts of northern Manitoba into the central parts and southern Manitoba today due to the smoke from the forest fires impacting a lot of communities. Now, this warning is affecting the Par, Flin Flon, Thompson, Norway Owls, Gillam, Lynn Lake up north, and we're looking at down south, Winnipeg, all the way down to the Emerson border. We're looking at the Westman region, the Parkland region, the Interlake region. The air quality index this morning is hovering between 7 plus and 10 plus in most of these regions, which means it's posing very high health risk in a lot of the regions, and the smoke is going to be making air really poor and visibility low in some areas. 16 degrees right now, Winnipeg, with mostly cloudy skies. Some showers will move in later in the day, and we're going to see most of these hazy conditions in the air today as we go through the day. We warm up to 24, though with the conditions outside warming up, it's going to feel humid, and that's the condition across most southern parts of the province. Up north, we're seeing around 10 and 13 degrees up there, so it's not as warm as down south.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
And it just started raining in Brandon, I noticed as well, while Abby was talking there. Let's get into the commute with Sierra Sanders. Good morning.
Good morning. Things are moving along smoothly out there.
You're lucking out this summer, man.
I really am, but I like to describe it as it gets a little lonely sometimes on the commuter line. I sometimes feel bad. I come and sit in front of the mic here and I don't have anything to tell anyone.
Corey starts changing it up. He starts going, let's do a trail report. How is it on your bike? Just call me to say hi. One morning he was begging people for jokes. So, yeah.
I mean, I that's what I've been saying. I was like, if you have something good you want to share, something good that's happening out on the roads, I would love to hear it. But again, if there is something getting in your way out there, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways, give me a call on the CBC commuter line, good or bad. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, for over 50 years, Paul Thomas has been the person to call questions about Canadian politics. The Professor Emeritus of Political Science at University of Manitoba made it a priority to offer context and knowledge to everyday citizens, like those of you listening, whether on television and newspapers or, of course, here on the radio. Paul Thomas has provided CBC Radio with countless interviews and election night analysis, offering local insight into questions that a mere Google search would never satisfy. And he gets ready to hang up his hat very soon, and we've reached him one more time to hear about some of his most standout political moments and opinions. Good morning, Paul Thomas.
Good morning, Marcy. Good to be with you.
So, have any notable people called to wish you well since you announced you're going to be hanging it up?
It's been very satisfying to hear from quite a few people. I got a little misty-eyed even by some of the comments through email, through messages. I stopped teaching officially in 2010, I guess it was. And the last decade of my teaching career, I was the Duff Roblin Professor of Government, and I had the luxury of teaching a graduate seminar that was mid-career public servants, plus people who aspired to be in the public sector. And I learned as much from them as they ever learned from me.
All right, let's get through some of the, I guess it's kind of a quiz. Who would you designate, Paul Thomas, as Manitoba's most memorable premier?
Oh, Duff Roblin by miles, because I had the honor and privilege of having his name on my business card for more than a decade. I got to know him quite well before he passed away. He was voted Manitoba's outstanding premier. I think that was a CBC poll of some kind. But I know, in my opinion, having studied premiers from the past and having known all of them since the Duff Roblin era, that he was the best by far. Not that there weren't other very good people with whom I had good relationships. Howard Pauly, I read his manuscript for his biography a couple of times, I guess. Gary Doer appointed me to several important public inquiries that I undertook. And even Brian Pallister and I had a good relationship. He would call me in for lunch, and I would listen to him for an hour or so, mostly serving as a sounding board. So I tried to be nonpartisan in my outlook. I've never joined a party. I'd been asked, but never joined a party. So I think there have been a lot of good premiers. And unfortunately today, people in public life don't get the respect they deserve, both on the political side, even on the administrative or public service side. And that's an unfortunate trend that's developed over my lifetime of commentary.
Would Duff Roblin be your pick for most memorable premier without Duff's Ditch, without the floodway?
Oh, yes. Before Duff became premier in the late 50s, Manitoba was basically the government had played a very limited role. We are way behind some other provinces more advanced in terms of education, social services, training, a whole range of things, housing policy. And Roblin came in and created a very active government and did it leading a conservative caucus that was mainly rural in its composition and believed governments was all about balancing the books. Duff was prepared to run up deficits and debt and then raise taxes. And he changed. It was sort of a quiet revolution, Manitoba style. He was very pragmatic. He wasn't a strongly ideological conservative. So that's why I have such great respect for him. In fact, I would say as a generalization that our best premiers have been premiers who have taken a more pragmatic approach. Give me a government that's affordable and show me that the government works. That's the best approach that's prevailed in Manitoba. It's led to the most success.
What about the most polarizing politician in this province?
Pallister was probably the most ideological premier in the two terms that he was in office. And he was so committed to an agenda of limited government, lower taxes, deregulation, privatization, that he antagonized a lot of people. Manitobans want good government, and they want affordable government, but they don't. But they believe that there's a positive role for government. And he seemed to bring the view that government was a problem, and he got caught by the pandemic and the economic slowdown at a time when he was trying to curb spending, and we lost the organizational capacity to deal in a comprehensive way with the COVID crisis in Manitoba. And it went against the grain for him to say, well, we got to loosen the purse strings.
What was the biggest or most impactful political moment that you covered in your time?
Meech Lake and the Charlottetown Accord, constitutional crisis of the late 80s and 90s. That was high drama, lots of theater. It occupied afternoon television, even with prime ministerial and first minister's conferences going on to create a deal. I remember my late mother-in-law was a wonderful person. She complained to me, Paul, why is Coronation Street not on CBC? Where did it go? Well, we're trying to save the country. And that's, that was dramatic, and we eventually, after the Charlottetown Accord, we had a referendum, a national referendum. And here in Manitoba, we, of course, had Harper standing up in the legislature with his feather and saying he would not vote for unanimous consent for the project to go through. And but Manitoba was at the center of attention then.
Is there a political moment or decision that you covered in Manitoba that still causes you to scratch your head?
Yes, it's the French language crisis. That was a horrible moment in Manitoba history. High emotion, crowds, mobs, I would say, occupying the legislative building and screaming of personal threats. It targeted at both sides. The Filmman family was threatened with property damage to their home at the time, and the Franco-Manitoban Society building was torched and so on. So it was an ugly period. And you have to remind yourself that part of the duty of politicians is to keep the temperature as low as possible, to strive for as much consensus as possible. And increasingly in this age of misinformation and disinformation and deep fakes, there's more of that going around. It's spilled over from the United States, and it's disappointing to me and discouraging to me. You will hear me call into talk shows or something if some of those kind of episodes arise. I think political ethics are not what they used to be, and that's a subject I will be available for comment on in the future.
What do you hope Manitobans take away from your work, Paul, and all of your media appearances and analysis?
I campaigned for a decade to get the legislative internship in the Manitoba legislature going, where 6 young recent university graduates work in the legislature as research assistants to backbench MLAs. So that's one of my proudest achievements. And the other thing one of the things that probably the toughest assignment I ever had as an outside consultant was in the aftermath of the longest, most expensive medical inquest in Manitoba history, led by Murray Sinclair. It took 6 years and $millions to complete. The Doer government asked me to write a implementation plan, and many of the changes were implemented within the healthcare system, and they made a difference. And that was a very emotional journey for me, dealing with the 12 families who had lost infants in the pediatric cardiac surgery program. I still have vivid memories of that to this day.
Thank you very much, Paul. And thank you for all of the many years and many times that you've been on CBC with us. Really appreciate you.
Well, I always enjoyed the morning conversations.
Take care.
Okay, Marcy, all the best.
Now, in case you are not recalling what Paul was talking about at the end there, that is in 1994, 12 infants died while undergoing cardiac surgery or shortly after at Winnipeg Health Sciences Centre. And that led to the inquest, and that led to the recommendations that were made. And that inquest was led by Justice Murray Sinclair, who, of course, since that point has went on to lead a number of different inquests in this province. So I just wanted to clarify what he was referring to there. But that is probably, certainly if not the last, one of the last, only on special occasions now, conversations we'll have with Paul Thomas, the newly retired Professor Emeritus of Political Studies over at the University of Manitoba. He has been working on politics and in an advisory role here in this province for more than 50 years.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
CBC Sports is your source for sports coverage and insights you won't find anywhere else. Get the athlete's real story on the Player's Own Voice podcast, hosted by Anastasia Busis. Find Player's Own Voice on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts. And whether you're a hardcore fan or just looking to hold your own in the conversation, the Buzzer newsletter helps make you smarter about sports. Subscribe today at cbcsports.ca/thebuzzer.
Well, that sets us up to be all pumped up for morning sports on CBC. And Scott Regehr does join us live on 89.3 now. Hi there.
Hey there, Marcy.
So we have some good news for Bomber fans ahead of this weekend game against Toronto, right?
Yeah, maybe surprising news where Zach Collaros is concerned after taking a brutal hit in that last game against Calgary. He had to come out in the second quarter and didn't return. And when you consider, although the Bombers aren't calling it a concussion, sure looked like it was one, something that he's dealt with several times in his career, of course. Well, to have him come back and practice fully yesterday, 4 days after the fact, that's a surprise and a very, pleasant one, I guess, if you're looking for the Bombers to come out on top in their next game. That's against Toronto on Saturday. Mike O'Shea, meanwhile, the coach of the team, was asked about how the league, and if the league is dealing with hits to the head adequately. It wasn't just Collaros who suffered a hit to the head over the weekend. So did Drew Brown, the quarterback for the Ottawa Red Blacks.
We're always trying to hone the rules and change the standards and make it safer for quarterbacks. Does it always work out that way in the field? No, it doesn't. And sometimes they're doing the right things, but it doesn't actually look like that on TV, let's say. But yeah, just to say it again, it's always on the agenda and it's always high up, talking about player safety and protecting the quarterbacks.
For his part, Marcy, Zach Collaros says he thinks the hit he received against Calgary was clean, but the timing was a bit late. So Bombers getting ready to tangle with the Argos with apparently Zach Collaros at the helm again.
All right, let's talk about this baseball game I watched last night where the Jays are concerned. All good things must come to an end. And if they just wouldn't have got 3 home runs, those Yankees.
Well, it's the Bronx Bombers. In this case, the things that came to an end, the run of success at home, of course, the 11-game home winning streak. The Yankees got him in the 9th inning with one of those 3 homers you referred to. Ben Rice got it, a tie-breaking long shot off of Jeff Hoffman. Hoffman is the Jays' closer, Marcy, and has been, I was going to say arguably overworked. No, he's just been overworked of late. Remember, he finished games on Friday, on Saturday, and on Monday. So reporters naturally asked manager John Schneider why he was used again on Tuesday.
I didn't want to start the 9th inning with someone else and then, feel the urge to bring Jeff in. Rather give him a clean inning and they can hit home runs. That's what they do.
It is, as we were discussing, what the Yankees do. All of their scoring last night came on homers, while Toronto's came through small ball. In fact, the Jays, despite their loss, had twice as many hits as the Bronx Bombers did. It is the bullpen, though, Marcy, that's the bigger story, with only a week to go before the trade deadline. Toronto is being linked with closers like the Twins' Johan Duran and the Guardians' Emmanuel Clase. Now, either of those guys would cost a small fortune in prospect capital, but can they afford not to make a deal like that after what we saw last night? Having lost at Skydome for the first time in a month, the Jays try to get back on a new winning streak there tonight, once again against those Yankees.
All right, let's finish this morning with footy, shall we?
Kelly, saved by Giuliani, and the rebound is there, and England somehow have done it again.
That's the sound, Marcy, of England beating Italy yesterday in the semi-finals of the European Championship. Just as they did in the quarterfinals, the Lionesses, as they're known, waited until extra time to score their winning goal, all very dramatic. And England now awaits the winner of today's other semi. That's between Spain and Germany. You'd think the Spaniards, as World Cup champions, would be the favorites, but they've never actually, in women's footy anyway, beaten the Germans before, with their latest loss coming at the Olympics last year in the bronze medal match. So that should be a cracker of a match. Starts at 2 o'clock Central Time.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
You bet.
That is Scott Regehr live on CBC with sports. 7:25 every day is when we talk to him on the show. Still ahead of the program, of course, we have local news coming up, and then we're going to be dipping into the Gimli Film Festival that starts today through the eyes of someone that is pretty excited, I suspect, because he won $10,000 for his movie to develop it, and now it's about to have its premiere at the festival. So we're going to talk to that filmmaker who's going to get to see his work very soon on the big screen. That's coming up. Also ahead in this half hour of the program, we're going to hear from Manitoba's Property Managers Association about the role that they might be able to play in mitigating the homelessness crisis in Winnipeg, and also whether they'd be willing to open up units to unhoused people. Now, this could be on an interim basis while we wait for housing starts to be built even quicker, which is something the mayor says is a problem, the speed at which that space can be built. But there's also some challenges that might come with this. So stay tuned. We'll have that conversation in the next half hour. Right now, your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 7:30, we're at 16 degrees with an air quality warning in downtown Winnipeg. We're expecting widespread smoke today. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. Premier Wab Kinew says Manitoba has an advantage when it comes to establishing an Arctic trade corridor. Kinew and Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe signed an MOU yesterday with Arctic Gateway Group to upgrade infrastructure and increase access to global markets through the Port of Churchill. Meanwhile, the premiers of Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta signed an MOU to build pipelines and rail lines, as well as a deep-sea port in James Bay in Ontario. Kinew dismissed suggestions that a port in James Bay would threaten the viability of the Port of Churchill as a nation-building project.
And Manitoba has a first-mover advantage when it comes to that logistical consideration, because alongside the federal government and alongside Arctic Gateway Group and the Indigenous and Northern owners of that collective, we have been investing in the rail line going north, and we've been investing in the port.
Kinew says he did not want to join the agreement with Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta before Manitoba secures buy-in from Indigenous nations on its own mega projects. Expect delays on your commute if you usually cross the intersection of Abinogi-Meekina and St. Mary's Road. The corner is going to be under heavy construction until next Tuesday. Every night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., the intersection will be down to one lane of traffic. On some days, it'll be closed altogether. Mina Tofik uses Winnipeg Transit. He's worried about how it could affect his commute.
I'm coming back from classes and I'm tired, and I don't want to have to walk or worry about how I'm gonna get home. So yeah, it would kind of be a pain,
The city says this work is part of a road reconstruction project stretching westbound along Abinogi-Meekina from Dakota Street to River Road. The International Court of Justice is handing down a historic opinion today on climate change. The World Court is laying out the global community's legal obligations when it comes to climate and the environment. Lauren Commute reports from The Hague.
The climate minister of Vanuatu, one of the small, stinking Pacific Island nations that instigated this case, says this ruling from the World Court will help people worldwide who have been fighting climate change in the courts. Ralph Reagan-Vanu.
Every court, this will be something they can use, whether it's a municipal level court or a state level court. They will be able to use this new ruling.
Pacific Island student activist Cynthia Hawihi asked judges at those same hearings to apply the law.
You possess the power to help us course correct and renew hope in humanity's ability to address the greatest challenge of our time.
They want an end to fossil fuels and restitution for the small nations bearing the brunt of climate extremes. But many big emitters, like the U.S. and Canada, argue the court should defer to the legal agreements on climate change already in place. Lauren Commute for CBC News, The Hague.
Staying with international news, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a trade deal with Japan. He says Japan will invest $550 billion into the United States.
I just signed the largest trade deal in history. I think maybe the largest deal in history with Japan. And that was done with Japan. They had their top people here, and We worked on it long and hard, and it's a great deal for everybody.
Trump also says a trade deal with the European Union will be announced today. And finally, Winnipeggers are raising concerns about uncut tall grass and weeds on properties where no one lives. It comes on the heels of homeowners getting warned about their lawns and in some cases being charged by the city to cut them. The city tells CBC vacant lots and properties are enforced to the same standards as occupied properties. Public Works Committee Chairperson Janice Lukes says a city bylaw requires property owners to cut their grass and control their weeds.
One of the bylaws is you have to keep your vegetation 6 inches or less. So far, I believe there's been 4,000 calls this year on people with issues about other people not managing their vegetation. There are rules that we have to follow, and it's fair.
Luke says bylaw officers give property owners up to 10 days after a warning to cut their grass or face a charge. If the city has to cut it, the expense is added to the homeowner's property tax bill. That is your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Back soon.
That's Matt Humphrey in our news center, filling in for Heather Wells today. I want to mention what's coming up here because at 8 o'clock, we're going to hear more about the premiers who continue to meet nationally here. They are talking today about healthcare and bail reform, we understand. We will hear from our Premier, Wab Kinew, and a little bit of what he's had to say about the meeting so far. So that's coming up after 8. I've also asked you on Facebook, as the premiers are set to talk about those areas, healthcare and bail reform, name one thing you would like to improve about either of those areas in Manitoba, and tell us why. And we'll share some of your comments from my Facebook page, which acts as a show page during the show, which is Marcy Marcusa, so Markusa. You can also call if you'd like to. What do you hope the premiers are discussing today around those issues? And what do you think they're missing discussing, perhaps, as they continue their meetings? So you can call us with that, 788-3205, 788-3205 is the listener line. All right, let's get into what's happening in our regional forecast now with Abby Adiyemi.
Good morning once again, Marcy. The only part of the province I'm not seeing a warning is in Churchill, but there's still smoke presence in the air there. But every other part of the province, we have warnings issued from the north all the way down to the southern part of the province as the smoke from wildfires really causing poor air quality and reduced visibility in most of the regions. We are looking at the air quality health index around 8 to 10 plus in a lot of the regions where we have this smoke concentration. So if you're sensitive to smoke and it's impacting you, I would advise try to limit your time outside. Winnipeg at this point, 16 degrees, mostly cloudy outside and hazy conditions. We have showers are likely to come in the forecast once the system comes through our way, and we'll see the highs close to 24 degrees. The humidity is going to make it feel warmer than that. In the Pembina Valley region, Modern, Winkler, Altoona, Morris, down to the U.S. border, similar to Winnipeg, smoky skies, expecting cloudy conditions and showers in the region, warming up to 24 and also humid. Brandon is at 16. We're seeing light rain in the Westman region this morning. These showers would stay with you into the afternoon period. Highs would be around 22. Smoke still remains in the air for folks in that part of the province as well. Dauphin is at 15 with smoky skies, similar to Gimli, 15 smoky skies, hazy conditions. We're seeing highs around 24 degrees. The powerful influence Thompson, Churchill, we're looking at temperatures hovering between 11 and 12 in these regions this morning, and we only see you warm up close to 24 degrees, except for Churchill that will be getting to 13 this morning. So it's going to be from smoky up north to more like humid and hazy down south, and we'll see highs near 24 degrees in most of the regions.
All right, thanks very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, Sierra Sanders is directing the program, but also working on what's happening on the morning commute, and she's kept an eye on what's so far been kind of a quiet morning, but I know there's a couple things you want to mention, so what's going on?
It has been a pretty quiet day on the commuter line, on this hump day commute, I should say. Things are moving along out there as far as I'm hearing. If that's not the case, though, and there is something that is getting in your way or slowing you down, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
22 minutes now to 8 o'clock, and as I've been mentioning, the Gimli Film Festival kicks off today. A lot of people circle it on the calendar, get excited, plan your trip. For one filmmaker, though, this moment has been a year in the making because last year, my next guest, Kobe Friesen, won the RBC Emerging Filmmaker Pitch Competition. So he received $10,000 in production funds for his film, or to create despite his film, Cruising in Gomorrah. Now, the film has its world premiere at the festival on Saturday, and Kobe's in studio to talk about it. Hi.
Hey, Marcy.
How are you feeling? I always ask filmmakers if they feel like they're about to give birth to a baby or something.
Well, in a way, it's already been birthed, I feel like. Like, the movie's done. It's ready. But, yeah, having it seen by an audience and seeing an audience see it is another thing. And we haven't done that yet. So that is definitely the next exciting part for the film.
Tell us a little bit about the story that it tells.
Yeah, so it's about two friends who go camping together. They're sort of drifting apart. And they start to have a bit of a disagreement, and there's a visitor that comes to join them and sort of starts chaos between the two of them. And it is an erotic horror, so there's that element to it as well. So it gets pretty spicy by the end. An
erotic horror.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if I've heard it as an actual genre, but it should be a genre.
Well, yeah, maybe I created it. I don't know.
What was it like? I mean, in the last year, what's it been like when filmmakers, the creativity can come, the work can come, but to actually have some finances to work with, what did that mean to you this year in your development of the film?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to have those resources. I had made a film before this with my own funds, and you just do with what you have. But when you are given a certain amount, you suddenly are like, oh, I can hire this person, I can hire that person. And so it really just opens up a whole new world of possibilities in terms of what you can do, and especially within the genre of horror. That is really cool because there's elements to this movie that I made that I could not have done with less than what we had. So
no, when you're saying that, I'm thinking about special effects and such. Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
practical
so there's
effects. Yeah.
In terms of the support in Manitoba for up and coming filmmakers, is it easy to find that support, or is it do you have to seek it out? Like, what's that looking like right now? What's the landscape like that as you try to grow your career?
Yeah, you definitely have to seek it out. I mean, once you've won a competition like this, it certainly helps. It makes things easier. Also, just like when you have a repertoire to show or a portfolio to show people, that also makes things easier. So feel like I'm getting there in terms of what I have to show people. But it always takes work, like you can, at least I haven't been in a position where I haven't had to like put myself out there to try and get funds to make a movie.
Now, there's a personal side and aspect to the film that you've made here. So why was this the moment for you for this film? And I'm not sure, I don't want to give too much away, but how much do you want to share about, personally what the film means to you and where this came from?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, the beginning of the process started with just an idea that was not related to anything other than an image in my mind. But as I started to write the script, I started to see, themes emerge that I thought, oh, this is interesting. This feels like shame. This feels like, reckoning with something in my past about internalized homophobia and just like the horror of kind of being in the closet. That's like far away from my reality now, but it definitely in the making of it was an interesting thing. And even just the making of this movie and the things that I show, I've had to sort of I found myself sort of apologizing sometimes to some people because I'm like, oh, you're not going to, this is going to maybe be too much for you. But I think I'm done apologizing now and also just want to be proud of my work. But it's been an interesting process of no, this is what I have to show. It's kind of ugly at times, but it is also horror. So there's going to be, entertainment and thrills along with that as well.
I understand you almost didn't pitch your idea last year. Is that right?
Yeah, and that was honestly, it was for it was kind of with what I was saying. I was just like, for this competition, it might be too much for the audience. And it was, just, for whatever insecurities I had at the time. But I don't know, something inside of me was just like, no, I think I just got to do it.
It's always those things, right?
Yeah.
I remember when I was applying at CBC and I thought that my reels should be full of all the hardest news and such. And I've been doing a lot of community work and I was working a lifestyle show. I didn't really have a lot of those things to show. Mm-hmm. But I had this really creative story and I put it in there. And I'm not going to talk more about it because it's not about me. But when I put it in there, that was the thing that stood out.
Right.
It's those things, right? Whereas, sometimes you go with your gut.
Totally. really. It's usually the personal thing and the thing that you like feel most drawn to that is going to be what latches onto people's minds.
So having said that, what do you think it's going to be like for you, that personal aspect? And because it's one thing to show your film, your work as an artist, but you know, there's some personal things in there. What do you think that's going to be like for you when it premieres?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what to anticipate because you can't anticipate how a crowd's going to react. I know for horror fans, I think it's going to hit hard, and I think people are going to really enjoy it. So I'm excited for that aspect. For others, well, you're just going to have to enjoy the ride because it's not just daisies and sunshine.
Are we talking like suspense, I'm nervous, there's a shadow behind horror? Are we talking creepy, wet-haired people like in the mirror image? Or are we talking like kind of fun, kitschy, someone's arm got cut off horror? Do you know what I mean?
I would say
blood splurting all over.
For the most part, for the most of the movie, it's atmospheric and sort of like dread filled. And then there is like sort of a cathartic moment at the end that is leaning into the body horror. I don't know if you've watched any like 80s body horror, that sort of thing. Okay. So get ready for that.
I like all that. Popcorn could be flying, and if you're seeing this, sing it with a friend, maybe to squish the hand and feel the feels too all the way through.
Yeah.
What was it like for you, the process over the past year of filmmaking?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a great team that sort of I got two people right off the bat, my cinematographer and my producer, that I found very quickly, kind of happenstance, and they were such amazing collaborators and just a little more experienced than me, so could kind of guide me in ways that I, didn't anticipate. But yeah, it's obviously I had a year to make this film, so it's like sort of a long process. I feel like we didn't really get going until after Christmas. And then it was a lot of just like casting and then, thinking of people to add to the team.
And you have a composer as well, is that right? Like you have actually a score. What was that like?
Original score. Oh, it was amazing. I had somebody in mind while I was writing, somebody who's sort of, personal friend, Jesse Krause. He's a local composer and performer, artist, genius in my opinion. So I'm very excited for that score to premiere as well. I think it adds a lot to the movie.
I always love that. Imagining closing my eyes and hearing something, and does it work with the visual? Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone who's inspired by you this morning, Kobe, but maybe they're sitting on their hands thinking their idea is not good enough to pitch?
Just do it. You only live once, and these ideas, if you like the idea, just get inspired by an idea and let it take you away. That's all I can say. Yeah.
How are you going to experience the premiere? Some people want to stay away, some people want to sit in the back, some people come with 20 people, friends, family. What are you going to be doing for this?
I think I'm going to stay in the back because I think I just also am going to be so interested in how everybody reacts.
You're going to watch the audience.
Yeah,
that's a filmmaker in you. All right, Kobe, thank you so much for coming in and telling us about this. I'll mention where people can see it, and good luck on the weekend.
Thank you so much, Marcy.
That is Kobe Friesen, the winner of the 2024 RBC Emerging Filmmaker Pitch Competition at the Gimli International Film Festival. And now, a year later, his film, Cruising into Gomorrah, premieres on Saturday. That's where you can see it at the film festival, 10 o'clock, right alongside the 2025 Pitch Competition. Cool music, eh? Abby picked this. This is Winnipeg's Nick Mesner with Zele. He keeps fiddle traditions alive with a fresh twist, as you can hear, and he has some upcoming live album coming out this fall, by the way. You might have caught him earlier this year. He was one of the performers at Festival de Voyageurs. It is 10 minutes now to 8 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. 16 in Winnipeg. Light rain continues in Brandon. That rain's going to come here. In the north, no rain in Thompson, just a lot of smoke. And that smoke advisory actually extends all across the province this Wednesday morning. Well, let's continue our conversation about housing in this city. Yesterday, we talked about how we can build housing faster. What are the ways to end homelessness in Winnipeg? We had a conversation with Sam Simbaris. Now, he's the founder and CEO of Pathways Housing First Institute. He's responsible actually for creating the Housing First model back in 1992. And that's a model used all over the world now and in places in Winnipeg as well. But we heard the mayor of Winnipeg, Scott Gillingham, last week saying he was frustrated right now with how long it's taking to move people from encampments into social housing. So there's a strategy in place, but there's no space. Simbaris suggested on our show yesterday that it's time that we bring landlords into the conversation to be part of the solution potentially.
Both the private landlords and the social housing landlords are essential to ending short-term homelessness quickly. Because what we don't see when we take someone off the street, we can take 100 people off the streets of Winnipeg today, but in 2 months, another 100 people will fall into homelessness. So that what I would like to make clear is that homelessness is not a static number. It's not a pool of people that exists today. For the people that are literally on the streets, those in the encampments, be represented to landlords with sufficient, rent subsidy, first month's security, first month's rent, a guarantee of support for the tenant once they move in is also essential, so that the landlord is willing to take the risk to house someone without a credit history and coming in with that difficult background.
Avram Shirak is my next guest, spokesperson for the Manitoba Professional Property Managers Association. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
I saw you nodding your head, saying yes to something that Mr. Simbaris was saying there. So what aspect was resonating with you, understanding, landlords?
So when I got the call yesterday from CBC, I mentioned that I was meeting with the mayor on a different issue on behalf of the property managers. And he said, can you talk to the Minister of Housing? I said, absolutely. What are you most concerned about? I said, supports. Because about 20 years ago, when Housing First hit in Winnipeg, I was approached then as the leader of the association. We took my company that I work for, took the very first Housing First person in. They were with us for 15 years. Excellent. But they didn't need supports. What we found was after 5 p.m. on a weekday, you couldn't find support. And if people were flailing, you ended up having to treat them like any other tenant. It's like, I'm sorry, you can't live here anymore if you can't act like a person should act in a building, because you couldn't get someone to come in and help deal with their issues.
Now, what are the supports we're talking about that to be part of, or a bigger part of the solution to end homelessness, or even the interim solution before more places, the permanent places can be built? What would landlords be looking for? What does that mean, supports?
So first of all, I'm not trying to oversimplify, because I sat on the Commute Advisory Board for homelessness for almost a decade, and there's so much to this. But a lot of these homeless people have certain mental health issues that cause them to act differently than what you might call a normal person might act in a tenancy. And all they need quite often is just the right person to speak to, a social worker, whoever, to explain to them why they should act a little differently outside of their apartment unit. And that's what we were not getting.
What does that mean? I don't get it. Act a little differently outside of their apartment unit?
So this was not a person from Housing First, but last year we had to terminate a tenancy for an individual, and we knew they had some mental health issues. They would glare at people in the hallways, and if someone even looked at them, what are you looking at me for? And they'd be aggressive.
Got it.
And this is the kind of thing that can happen, not with everybody. But if you have something like that, and a rational individual who has a worker who can help them explain why maybe they should either go to the park to do
some
that,
kind of social support,
or whatever, social support to make sure that when they're in the hallways and the common areas or in their unit, they're not doing the kinds of things that landlords have to ask them to leave the building because of.
what do you hear from landlords? Do some landlords then just say, like, I'm not doing this because I don't want to deal with that, or, or I'm nervous about dealing with that, or I'm worried about getting that wrong? Like, what prevents landlords from being a bigger piece of this, do you think?
Well, and hopefully we'll talk to government and we'll work this through, but about 5 to 7 years after the program started being used, most of the landlords were saying to me, the larger, smaller landlords, we just can't take these people anymore. The rent is coming in, but they're damaging our property and they're disturbing our other tenants, and we'd rather take in. And as it happens, vacancy rates went down around then as well. So we'd rather take in, the double income family that seems to have a good credit history and not damaged apartments before than take a chance, even though we're nice people.
The overall plan for the unhoused in this province and the strategy that involves the city as well is to have supports where, in the new builds. So you've alluded a couple times to ongoing conversations. Do you think that that's going to be something that's going to be coming for landlords that might be willing to be part of the strategy?
I certainly hope so. The mayor said to me, let me call Minister Smith and let her know you're calling. So next week I plan on calling her. We'll set up a meeting. 20 years ago, the province came in. They met with our association. We had about 45 members sit down with them, explain the program, and a bunch of us jumped on board. But again, the success rate was so low that people, once bitten, twice shy.
The supports that you had previously or that you would be looking for, would it be, are social workers ever attached to sort of different buildings, or would it be something that would be tenant to tenant specific, do you think?
So in the past, we'd have a number, a 945 number, government number we'd call, and they'd send out what they could. It would be nice because we do deal with a few agencies, again, not housing first agencies, child and family service types, or special needs agencies, where we have one number we call. They know who the client is, whether the person answering the phone or not is their worker. They can come deal with it. I've called at 11 o'clock at night on a weekend, one of the agencies we deal with, and said, this person's having a breakdown, please go help them. And they've gone and they've helped them.
What's it like for you when, as you said, without the supports, you treat any tenant exactly the same as the other? And so you have someone who has already been facing challenges and maybe been unhoused, or you said in the past with Housing First, although that person you said didn't have problems, but you said didn't have challenges rather. But what's it like when you do have to evict someone that you're trying to help in good faith, so to speak?
We certainly don't enjoy doing that, but we have to be concerned. The average size of building from our association is between 20 and 100 units. When you have 90 tenants who are worried about one, you have to worry about the 90. It's not that you don't care about the other person, but you have to take care of the large majority of your tenants over one person who has needs, and you're just not able to deal with it. I mean, when I started in property management 30 years ago, no one told me I was going to have to become a social worker. But a lot of property management is dealing with the people, not the property.
How many unhoused people could you place in social housing, so to speak, this year, like if you had the right support?
Well, our association represents about 79,000 units. If each one of our members, we have about 74 members, if each one of our members put 2 people in, it would be 150 easy. And 2 people is not a lot to take when you have portfolios. So we could probably house a couple or 300 if vacancy is there. And if they meet the 3 very simple criteria that we use, it's a lot less simple than this, but pay the rent, don't bother the neighbors, and don't damage the property.
Do you need supports on site in terms of offices on site that might offer other kinds of programming and such? Or is that something that we haven't talked about that?
That would be something for a building that's built specifically for these people.
Got it.
Part of this model that could work, and we used this when the Syrians came to town. We partnered again with the government, with the Syrians. We tried to put 1 or 2 per building. So you didn't end up with, and it's the not right word, but with a ghetto. You didn't end up with one building that was everybody the same. And these new immigrants were learning from the existing Canadians. These people from Housing First, the ones who need support, not the ones who simply need a leg up, a little bit of money. If they see how the other 50 or 75 tenants in the building are acting, hopefully that'll work for them. There are other solutions, though. I just gave your producer a little article on tiny homes. That might be an interesting one as well.
Well, we're going to have to look at that, and we're going to have to find out how your meeting with the minister goes next week, the planned meeting. Thank you very much for being here to weigh in on this. Obviously, won't be the last time we speak. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you, Marcy. Take care.
You too. That is Avram Chirac, the spokesperson for the Manitoba Professional Property Managers Association. With news headlines, here's Matt.
Good morning. As Winnipeggers are warned to keep their grass short or face bylaw fines, some residents are wondering why some vacant lots are consistently overgrown. Perhaps you've seen one. Officials say vacant lots are enforced to the same standard as occupied lots. We'll have more news after World Report.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Back soon.
Matt Humphrey from our news department. 16 in Winnipeg. A chance of rain, widespread smoke across the province. Winnipeg's high 24. And still ahead, we're going to hear more about what Premier Rob Canoe has been saying at the national meetings.
Today on Q.
I'm Garvey Bailey, sitting in for Tom Power. Rock music legend Ozzy Osbourne died Tuesday morning at the age of 76. Back in 2022, Tom Power talked with Ozzy about his new solo album, Patient Number 9, and about his decades-long career.
Q. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. It's the 100th anniversary of the Scopes monkey trial in the U.S. that looked at whether evolution could be taught in the classroom. Today, there's tension again between science, religion, and education. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The UN's highest court is about to hand down a historic opinion on climate change. It could set a legal benchmark for climate action around the world. The case was brought by a group of sinking Pacific Island nations, including Vanuatu. Ralph Regenvanu is Vanuatu's climate minister.
Every court, this will be something they can use, whether it's a municipal level court or a state level court. They will be able to use this new ruling to try to make governments be more accountable and do more.
A panel of 15 judges has been tasked with answering two questions. First, what are countries legally obligated to do to protect the climate and environment from human-caused greenhouse gas emissions? And second, what are the legal consequences for governments when their lack of action harms the climate and environment? Japan has something Canada wants, a new trade deal with the United States and a significant reduction in the tariffs it will face starting August 1st. The deal was announced late yesterday, and the other leaders who received tariff threat letters from U.S. President Donald Trump are looking closely at the details. The CBC's Janice McGregor is poring over the fine print in Washington. And Janice, what should Canadians be taking away from this deal that was struck with Japan?
Marcia, let's start with the compromise on the across-the-board tariff rate. 15% is a significant step down from the 25% that Donald Trump's letter had threatened to add to the price of Japanese imports. Now, this lower rate is going to be less punishing for the American consumers and businesses that have to pay it, but this deal is landing higher than the 10% tariff that was previously hitting Japanese cars and auto parts. Unlike the UK, Japan did not agree to a quota that will limit its future automotive growth. Trump's also touting an apparent $550 billion that Japanese companies will invest in the U.S. We already know about a deal to inject just under $15 billion in a Japanese takeover of U.S. steel. Will automotive supply chain investments now follow? Could that shift investments away from Canada's industry? Here's Trump last night.
We worked on it long and hard, and it's a great deal for everybody. A lot different from the deals in the past, I can tell you that.
Japan had to make a historic concession to land this, helping Trump deliver for American farmers by opening up access to its notoriously protected rice market.
Trump's letter to Canada threatens a 35% tariff starting August 1st. What's the state of our government's negotiations?
Yeah, remember, the economic urgency isn't quite as dire as that 35% sounds. With the notable exception of steel, aluminum, softwood lumber, goods that comply with CUSMA are exempt from Trump's current threats. But talks continue in earnest, trying to end the uncertainty over all this. The lead minister, Dominic LeBlanc, expected back in Washington for more meetings today and tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Washington. Canada's premiers are about to sit down for the third and final day of their meeting in Huntsville, Ontario. Today, they're shifting their attention from U.S. trade to national issues, including internal trade, public safety, and healthcare. CBC News has learned a $68 million immigration project was unexpectedly shut down last year. The goal was to revamp Canada's outdated asylum system and enhance border integrity. But documents show the project was only partially finished. As Priscilla Key-Song Juan reports, critics worry the abandoned project will cause more problems for people seeking protection.
I want to reform the system. It's not working in the way it should.
That's former Immigration Minister Mark Miller last November on Canada's asylum system plagued with inefficiencies. But just a few months before that public statement, the Immigration Department, IRCC, quietly halted its asylum interoperability project at about 2/3 complete. It was a partnership with border agency CBSA and the Immigration and Refugee Board. Access to information documents show CBSA called the move unexpected. That $68 million project sought to create real-time information sharing to improve workflow, border security, and to help refugee claimants move through the backlog. The government says it's achieved some of those improvements, but today, that backlog is at a historic high with more than 288,000 claims pending as of last month. Refugee lawyer Wei Will Tao.
Again, the first question is if these tools are so effective and being implemented, then why do we still have this backlog?
Syed Hassan is with the Migrant Rights Network. He says it's actually harder for people on the ground now.
It increases deportations, and it's part of a broader turn rightward towards Trump-like policies.
CBSA, the Refugee Board, and IRCC declined an interview, but in a statement, the Immigration Ministry said it hopes the Liberal government's new legislation, the Strong Borders Act, will build on the foundations of this abandoned project. Priscilla Key-Song Juan, CBC News, Ottawa.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is preparing to resume peace talks with Russia. Zelensky says he has discussed plans for a prisoner exchange with his Secretary for National Security and Defense Council. Turkey is holding the talks that are expected to begin today. Moscow says it does not expect any breakthroughs. The families of two men killed by Nunavik police are demanding a meeting with Quebec's premier. They want changes within the police service following 3 fatal police shootings in the region. Among their list of proposed reforms is disarming the local police. Samuel Watt reports.
David Ananak says he told his son Mark to stop evading police in the village of Kangaksualujuwak. He says Mark did stop running in early May, but that's when it all turned horribly wrong.
He got shot 2 times.
Mark died shortly after. Ananak says his son had broken the law before, but he had a good heart.
He'd been very nice to everyone, very helpful. And he was on the first responders before.
Now, Ananak has co-signed a letter with the family of another police shooting victim. They want to meet with Quebec's premier and they have 3 demands. They want the province to disarm Nunavik police, launch a full public commission inquiry into the police service, and create a team to work towards reconciliation.
If they carry firearm on their side going on the street, they're going to kill more.
The letter follows a fatal police shooting in Inukjuak last week. That's the 3rd such death in 8 months. Inukjuak Mayor Bobby Ipu says the death is still very fresh.
Other family members from our neighboring community arrived by boat over the weekend. They are still in shock. They're still mourning.
Quebec's Minister of Public Security, Francois Bonnardel, says the province is closely watching the eroding sense of trust in the police service. There is an independent audit into Nunavik police underway. Bonnardel says his department will support its implementation. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The man accused of killing 11 people at a Vancouver festival in April will be back in court today. Kaji Adam Lowe is now facing 11 counts of second-degree murder. Lowe is accused of driving his SUV into a crowd of people at the festival. A 2-day hearing begins today to determine if he is mentally fit to stand trial. Lindsay Duncombe reports.
What happened that April evening when an SUV rammed into a crowd at Vancouver's Lapu Lapu Day Festival brought grief to so many. 11 people were killed, many more injured. Today's hearing will determine if the man accused is fit to stand trial for murder. Tony Paisana teaches law at the University of British Columbia. He explains the hearing this way.
So you're trying to figure out whether the person understands the nature and consequences of what is going on, and whether they can communicate with their lawyer in such a way that they can make rational decisions about how the case is going to proceed.
In a statement issued 3 days after the attack, Vancouver Coastal Health said Lowe was under the supervision of a mental health care team. Health officials said the best known information at the time is that there was no indication of violence in his presentation or a recent change in his condition. Lowe's lawyer requested this hearing and says his client's mental health has been assessed in custody. Paisana expects experts will testify about the accused's behavior behind bars.
It is a snapshot, as it were, of the person's functioning at a particular point in time.
He describes it as a snapshot because an accused's fitness for trial can change. Someone deemed able to go to trial can later become unfit, and vice versa. The hearing is scheduled for 2 days. A publication ban is expected to cover much of what is discussed in court. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're with the Morning Show on Information Radio here, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. I sound like a broken record, but smoky and rain, folks, that's what we've got. Now, the rain won't be quite as heavy as yesterday, and the smoke actually is affecting more of the province, so we'll walk you through all that in a moment, but it's a cloudy start for our Wednesday here. This half hour in the program, as you likely know and you've been hearing on World Report, the country's premiers continue to meet face-to-face this week in Huntsville, Ontario. We're going to hear more about what Manitoba's Premier Wab Kinew has been saying about the meetings so far, so stay tuned. That's this half hour in headlines and here on the show as well. Also this half hour on the program, something coming up, and if you're a Bomber fan, you'll probably want to get involved with this. Habitat for Humanity Manitoba is teaming up with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They're going to be building some homes this fall. They're putting out the call to fans to join in. So more coming up, in case you want to swing a hammer beside Zach Collaros. Actually kind of hope he doesn't get involved because if getting injured building a house would be bad for the quarterback. But maybe there'll be some other Bombers. But we did get news in sports this morning that Zach Collaros was practicing with the Bombers, so that's good news after he went out of the game last week. And he very much, hopefully, will be in to play on Saturday. But we'll talk Habitat this half hour. Right now, let's get into those news headlines I mentioned. Matt Humphrey joins us live in studio. Hi, Matt.
Good morning. As Marcy touched on, Manitoba's Premier says he would like to have Ottawa as a partner on a large Arctic trade corridor through the Port of Churchill, but he also says the project could go ahead without federal financial support. Manitoba and Saskatchewan have signed a memorandum to expand trade through Churchill in a 5-year deal, which also includes the owner of the port and the northern rail line leading to it. We'll hear more at 8:30. And a busy intersection in Winnipeg's St. Vital area will be closing for hours-long stretches overnight this week. The corner of Abinogi-Meekina and St. Mary's Road will be under heavy construction until next Tuesday, every night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The intersection will be down to 1 lane of traffic. More details at the bottom of the hour.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Back soon.
Now into the forecast I mentioned, which is similar to yesterday, Abby.
Yeah, similar to yesterday, Marcy. We are looking at smoky conditions from the northern part of the province all the way down south. As mentioned, the only part not seeing this air quality warning is Churchill this morning, but all the regions in the province, we have a smoke warning in effect, and that will be impacting breathing issues, people with breathing issues, and even if you spend much time outside, the smoke might be impacting you. 16 and smoky in Winnipeg at this time, mostly cloudy. We're expecting some showers later in the day. We should see that just not really every part of Winnipeg would get the shower. It's just going to, brush through Winnipeg, and then it's more about the smoke. Tonight is going to stay mostly cloudy, and temperatures will be getting to around 24, 25 in most of the regions. Up north, it's kind of more of the smoky concentration in the northern part of the province this morning. The south stays humid. The north stays smoky.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, Sierra's just off the phone, so I'm not sure if that was a traffic tip at all, and it looks like it was not. So that's good news because it's been pretty quiet and good going this morning so far in the commute. You can call if you need, and you can reach CBC and we'll pass along any tips at 788-3093. Well, out of that Premier's meeting this week, there's been a lot of focus on internal trade and the Canada-U.S. trade talks, as Matt just mentioned in headlines. So our Premier of Manitoba, Wab Kinew, spoke on power and politics with the CBC's David Cochran about the meeting so far, and specifically about the situation that Canada is facing with the U.S. and with U.S. President Donald Trump.
What is your sense of where things stand with August 1st approaching? I mean, there's obviously an unpredictability in the president. There is an uncertainty in the economy.
Well,
I mean, where do you think we are?
Say the least when you're talking about President Trump. Where we are is, I think, a deep breath, some patience would go a long way right now. I totally understand business owners, employees who are feeling so much pressure because of what the president has done. But we also need to, I think, understand that a bad deal for Canada would be worse than some of the other options, like putting up with more uncertainty for a few more months, taking us later into this year. So I think we need to be aware of the fact that keeping our options open as a country, as Canada, might be in our economic best interest at this time. You know, when you talk about the president, if we do a deal by August 1st, maybe we rush to make some sort of, capitulation, or we give him something that he wants there. Who's to say that he's not going to change the terms,
it's pull the
rug
starting
out?
point for the next concessions,
Exactly.
right? I get you.
So there you go. And so what's the rush at this point? Like, I understand the pressure in terms of the economy, but given the parameters of the negotiation that we have here, I think we do well to maintain some resolve and a steady hand.
And look, and I get the argument that maybe more uncertainty is better than signing a bad deal, but there's key sectors out there that are getting hammered, right? Steel, auto, potentially aluminum, copper, pharmaceuticals down the road. So, like, time is of the essence if you're the auto sector right now, right?
But like when you're negotiating a deal, like you hit the clock and you put pressure on the person on the other side of the table, right? Like if you're going in to buy a car and then all of a sudden they tell you, oh yeah, the other person was in here and they're going to buy that same vehicle, you start to panic and maybe you pay a bit more than you were expecting. We have steelworkers in Manitoba. We want to protect their jobs. We've got, in our province, actually only about 51% of our exports are CUSMA compliant. So we're potentially exposed in Manitoba to a big chunk of the business that we do with the states. But given the way the Trump administration has continuously moved the goalposts, has continuously put different issues on the table, taken them off, I think we should maybe just let go of the August 1 deadline as a fixation, and the fixation that we should have is a good deal.
Right.
The long-term best interest of Canada. I think future generations are going to look back at this moment as an inflection point, and I don't want us to get it wrong. I want us to stand up for our national interests and to stand up for our independence.
I take your point about obsessing on a deadline, because this wasn't even the deadline until it was randomly announced as the deadline, and maybe it could change before August 1st. But the Prime Minister and the President did kind of agree at Kananaskis to put a 30-day clock on things, get a deal or no deal by the 16th of July. The 21st of July was supposed to be the retaliation day. So clearly there is a mindset at the federal level to be ready to respond with countermeasures of some sort. Do you think that new date becomes August 2nd if there is no deal? Should Canada be ready to hit back in some form, like on steel at minimum?
Well, no, listen, it's clear that when we stand up for ourselves as a country, the Trump administration notices. You've heard the commentary from administration officials about the booze being taken off shelves, about people changing their buying habits, about all these other things that Canadians have done, rightfully so, to stick up for ourselves. So should we prepare more tools to use in this negotiation? Yes. Should we find ways to give ourselves more leverage when it comes to the relationship with the United States? Yes. And the good news is, I think a lot of these sources of potential leverage are things that could really benefit us as a country. So if we're talking about building some of these mega projects, all of a sudden if the U.S. sees that we're going to go it alone when it comes to energy, or we're going to go with the EU or South Korea or some of these other nations with our big trade relationships, that gives us more leverage in that relationship. So too, if we become more self-sufficient as a country with our resources, with our internal trade. So I think there's a cohesive strategy that we have as a Team Canada to build up our Canadian economy, first and foremost because it's good for the lumberjack plaid wearing maple syrup guzzling Canadians that we are, hockey fans as well, but it's also good because it does show strength in the face of this American aggression.
So that's Wab Kinew, the Premier of Manitoba. He was on Power and Politics yesterday, just last night, in conversation there with the CBC's David Cochrane. Now, you can find the full conversation online if you're looking for it on the CBC Listen app or on GEM, or by Power and Politics online. You can find that anywhere you get your podcasts as well. Of course, the premiers today are going to move from talking about trade, although that's always in the background. But today they're expected to be focusing, as you might have heard, on bail reform, one of the big things that's going to be coming up at the meetings. We've asked you online to weigh in from a Manitoba lens on your thoughts on bail reform. And Janice Lee Lukes wrote in, a third of the city's budget is allocated to police. So this is Janice Lukes. This is the city councillor weighing in. She says, with demands for more police indicate a great percentage of their time is rearresting some bad guys, she writes. The system is catch and release and a revolving door, and money is wasted. Repeat offenders are repeating, and imagine our city with less crime and more money for other priorities. With an alternate point of view, Kate Kaler has weighed in, saying bail reform is a nonsense issue. It's used by municipal and provincial levels of government to seem to be doing something about crime, i.e. blaming the federal government so they don't actually have to do anything about crime. Crown attorneys still have the authority to hold people on remand when they believe public safety is at risk. Manitoba has long abandoned the concept of innocent until proven guilty, given the percentage of people who are held on remand status. The issue that we have with people being released and reoffending or breaching conditions, like having to abstain from certain behaviors that are legal for everyone else, is we release them into the same conditions that led them into trouble in the first place. So let the premiers talk about what they will do about poverty, Kate writes, rather than pointing fingers elsewhere. A good place to start on these issues is ramping up community supports, addiction and mental health resources, and supportive housing. So Kate Kaler, of course, is with the Social Planning Council of Winnipeg. So interesting, we have a councillor, and then we have obviously someone in the who works in this area in Winnipeg of social planning weighing in. There's a lot more comments as well about what you hope the premiers will talk about today as they continue their meetings. And if you want to be in on the conversation, those comments were online on Marcy Marcusa Facebook page, but you can always call us 788-3205.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
Time right now is 8:21, and as I mentioned, some of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to be soon trading in the pigskin for a toolbox. This fall, the home team is going to be teaming up with Habitat for Humanity. They're going to build some homes for families. They're calling it the Bombers Home Build. The goal is to create about 55 homes in the city for some lower-income Manitobans, and they were not going to do it alone. So they're asking fans to get involved in the build. Both organizations are currently hunting for fans who are going to sign up by a deadline in September, I understand, who want to trade their foam fingers for a hammer. And to talk about it, Habitat CEO Jamie Hall is with us. Hi, Jamie.
Hi there, Marcy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. And Bombers President and CEO Wade Miller's here as well. Hi, Wade.
Hi, good morning.
So you're not worried, Wade, about the Bombers getting injured building houses?
No, we'll send out two players that are capable of swinging a hammer, so we'll make sure we send the right ones.
Why'd you want to get involved in this?
Well, you know, Habitat does such great work in our city and province, and you know, and solves a critical issue in our province, and you know, by providing homes that are reasonably and you know, for people to be able to afford. And we're just happy to partner with such a great organization like Habitat and do our small part to you know, bring awareness, number one, and two, have a build for our Blue Bomber fans as well.
Have you done this in the past, Wade, with the club?
This is the first time with Habitat, which is really cool. I had the opportunity to be out there on the site a month ago, I guess, and you know, we look forward to getting all of our fans out. We had our women's club was out there building already once, and a part of that women's club is just Blue Bomber fans. They're women and do different activities together, and that was just a great one where they were out as part of that. And now the opportunity for you know, all the rest of our fans to come out and be a part of it in the fall. So we're looking forward to it, and it's very exciting.
So Wade mentioned the site there, Jamie. The site is in Transcona, is that right?
That's right. It's our 900 Pandora Avenue West location, where we have been building for a couple of years already. We're going to have, when we're completed, 55 homes. So a home to 55 families, which we expect is about 175 kids will be living there, 275 people. And the Bomber House will be one of those 55 that we've designated as the Build a Blue Bomber House that we're working on. We got the foundation in now. We're going to be working on it over the course of the fall and the winter to move a family in next spring.
Remind us how you decide which family will receive a home.
So we serve we partner with low-income families who really are in a rental. Half of our families are coming from a subsidized rental situation to help them move from rental into home ownership. And we do that with, first of all, having them work with us to build a house. So they put in 500 hours of labor. But we have a mortgage model that makes it possible for a family that is in the low income category to actually build equity over 15 years with us so that they can then participate in market housing and qualify for a conventional mortgage. So it really is that crucial step in the housing continuum to move from rental and subsidized rental into home ownership.
Wade, I'm a big CFL fan. Everybody on the air knows this, and I'm a big Bomber fan. But what I like about the CFL is, besides being uniquely Canadian, it is very community-minded, you know what I mean? And you see, I love seeing the players around town and being involved. What do you hope that they take away from this experience?
Well, I just think it's just another one of those opportunities where you get to see, Blue Bomber players part of our community. And as you know, CFL players and our players especially are accessible and part of this community. And a lot of them made Winnipeg their home, and, they get to be a part of something and know that, they're able to build a home and do their small part to help a family out.
Do you have any natural builders already on the team that you're thinking of tapping to do this and build the Bomber House, or are you still figuring that out, Wade?
Well, we don't have any Bob Cameron, so if you don't have Bob Cameron, then nobody's a builder. Bob was a builder.
Yeah.
And way before Bob the builder was, cool for kids, Bob was the builder. So,
what kind of training will the Bombers get, Jamie, and then also by extension, fans or people who sign up to help build the Bomber House with the Blue?
Absolutely. So the beautiful thing about Habitat is we are volunteer at the grassroots level, and to build with us, you don't need to bring any skills. We will have you working with skilled tradespeople and construction folks, and we will work to whatever your level of ability is. And so absolutely, our Bomber players that'll be coming out as well as the fans will be coming out don't need to show up with any skills. We'll even provide the protective equipment and the tools. Just to have a wonderful day helping our community. I will also, Marcy, attest to your first, or make a comment with your first comment. We have a great safety program, and it has crossed my mind, and making sure we do keep our players safe. If we get players that are going to be throwing or catching, I'm really going to be making sure that they're not using their hands a whole lot on that day, maybe on a supervisory role. But yeah, we welcome everyone, regardless of your abilities, to sign up and come have a wonderful 2 days. You can sign up for either October 1st or October 2nd to build with a Bomber. I was saying that because I'm so clumsy. If I were out there with a hammer, I'd be terrified that I would by accident, it would slip and I would hurt one of the players. Wade, I know that this city has been good to me. I know the city's been good to you. This is your city. I wonder, what does it mean to you to be part of, and the Bombers being part of building new homes at a time when folks in our city, there's a lot of struggle, a lot of people who need homes over their heads.
Yeah, and exactly right. And just thought that this was the right time for us to do this with Habitat for all those reasons you just mentioned. And, it's, having a stable, secure housing situation is important in our community. And this is, the work Habitat does is part of that, and they make a difference. So for us to do our small part was something we were able to sign up and be very happy to do from day one.
All right, last, Jamie, where do people sign up? You mentioned it's 2-day builds. There will be training. It's in October, but where should people go if they're interested right now, if they want to build, or if they're Bomber fans specifically who want to build?
Absolutely. So we have 100 spots. We've got about a quarter of them filled already, and we're hoping we're going to ride the Bombers' wave of sellouts and selling out early. So I encourage everyone to go to habitat.mb.ca and other events. Under events, you'll find the Build a Bomber House, and you can sign up for one of those 2 days. We are encouraging fans just to donate. If you love this idea, you can go to our website, and under the To Donate, you'll find your way to build a bomber house. I'll also encourage organizations. We do team builds with companies, and we have a bomber upgrade this year that includes a special edition Habitat bomber T-shirt, as well as an event that we have planned in the Pinnacle Room at the stadium in the fall. And so organizations can reach out to us at habitat.mb.ca as well, and be part of having their whole team coming out and building with us.
All right. Well, thank you both for being with us live on CBC this morning. I'll let you go and order the blue siding, because I'm guessing the bomber house is going to be blue. Take care, Wade. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks,
Habitat for Humanity CEO Jamie Hall with us live, and Blue Bombers CEO and President Wade Miller. The Bombers home build will be happening October 1st and 2nd. You can sign up to build with the Bombers. So cool, Marjorie Dalhouse.
Very cool.
Yeah, I will not sign up. Like I said, the last thing anyone needs is me swinging a hammer and hurting a bomber. Right? All right, you are here to tell us what's coming up on Noon's Call-In.
Yeah, so you had an emerging filmmaker from the Gimli Film Festival on your show earlier today, and that's what we're talking about, because this year is the 25th edition for the Gimli International Film Festival. If you didn't know, it is the largest rural film festival in Canada. So we're asking you to call and share your memories. A lot of folks have been out there to see films, just have a good time. So we want to hear from you. What memories do you have of the Gimli Film Festival? Was there a film that you saw there that is so memorable? If you've gone, why do you enjoy it so much? The executive director of the film festival will join us this afternoon on Radio Noon.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you, Marge.
Thanks, Marcy.
So that's between 12:30 and 1 right here on CBC. Your news is next.
This is CBC News. At 8:30, we're at 16 degrees with an air quality warning in downtown Winnipeg. We're expecting widespread smoke today. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. Premier Wab Kinew is in Huntsville, Ontario, to meet with other premiers at the Council of the Federation meeting. He signed 4 separate MOUs with Saskatchewan, British Columbia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. The premiers of Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta signed their own joint MOU to build more energy infrastructure, including pipelines and a port. Kinew says he met yesterday with Ontario's Doug Ford and Scott Moe of Saskatchewan, and he says he spoke with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith about their shared economic priorities.
So we're definitely all on the same page in terms of wanting to build up Canada and build up our economy. And I think right now, each province and territory and region and the federal government are taking the approaches that we think are going to best position us for success.
Kinew says Manitoba's resource approach involves working with Indigenous nations to build consensus on projects. He says he did not want to join yesterday's agreement with Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta before Manitoba secures buy-in from Indigenous nations on its own mega projects. Dozens lined up at the MPI office on Main Street this morning, hoping to land a spot in the popular Driver's Ed program. Registration for the fall session opened at 8 this morning. MPI says there's nearly 4,700 spots available for students learning to drive. That's up from 4,200 last September. And you might remember the long lines from the condensed summer program this past May. Those spots filled up quickly, leaving many unable to enroll. The intersection of Abinogi-Meekina and St. Mary's Road in Winnipeg is going to be under heavy construction for the next several days. Every night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., the intersection will be down to 1 lane of traffic, and some days closed altogether. One daily commuter, Jasdeep Brar, says the work is definitely adding to his drive time.
It's only going down to 1 lane. I can only imagine even just a short commute, like today's commute, is supposed to be only like 5-7 minutes, but already it's probably been closer to 15 minutes, so not looking forward to that.
The city says the work can't start any later than 6 p.m. because some of the work has to be done in the daylight. The goal is to do the work overnight and have the intersection open every morning for rush hour. And as premiers continue to meet in Ottawa, they're expected to shift their focus to today, now discussing health care and bail reform during their final day of meetings. Olivia Stefanovic has your details.
Outside the lakefront Ontario Cottage Country Resort hosting premiers, dozens of healthcare workers demonstrate on the side of the road, demanding their concerns be heard.
The wait times, people are dying, waiting for surgeries, the ERs, they're closing ERs up here in the north.
Jillian Watt is the president of a local union. Over the last 2 days, premiers barely made any public mention of healthcare as they're absorbed by the trade war with the U.S. But healthcare is on the agenda for the final day of meetings, along with bail reform.
And I'm grateful to know that priority is shared by the Prime Minister.
BC Premier David Eby says he delivered a letter to the Prime Minister from the family of Bailey McCourt, a Kelowna mother whose violent death is sparking both outrage and calls to change the justice system. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Huntsville, Ontario.
And finally, a Winnipeg man wants the city to do more to control tall grass and weeds growing in vacant lots. This comes on the heels of another homeowner being warned and often charged for not cutting grass on occupied properties. James Bothwell has been living in Winnipeg's West End for the past 4 years. He worries the tall grass in his neighbor's empty lot poses safety hazard and isn't nice to look at. Bothwell says the city cut the grass twice last year, but hasn't this year yet.
To be honest, I've seen it worse than this. My window overlooks it, and I never look out my window, so.
The city says vacant lots and properties are enforced to the same standards as occupied ones. It's received 2 complaints about Bothwell's neighbor's lot this year and issued a compliance order. The owner of the lot tells CBC they're not in Canada right now and will deal with the tall grass when they return. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Thanks for the morning, Mars.
Yeah, you too. That is Matt Humphrey in our news center filling in for Heather Wells this morning. It's 8:35 a.m. and Sierra Sanders is back, closing out the quiet morning in the commute.
I am closing out a quiet Wednesday morning commute. It sounded like things were moving smoothly today, but as always, keep an eye on Manitoba 511 if you are going on the highways in case there are any closures, and keep an eye out here in the city for any big construction projects that are happening. Even if it's overnight, I feel like they're still a big deal.
They are still a big deal.
Either way,
we're going to hear about them.
Exactly. I will be back tomorrow morning for all of your traffic needs. So if you have anything to tell me tomorrow, I look forward to hearing it.
Awesome. I'm glad you're coming back because you direct the show.
Exactly. I kind of have to come back
tomorrow.
No
one to tell me what to do.
Exactly.
All right, let's get into big thank yous here before we check one last look at weather here with Abby. So first, thank you to Sierra Sanders for being our show director and for being on the air here covering what you need to know in the commute. In addition, those who worked in the program today, associate producers Sid Sundance Horschig, Chloe Friesen, Jenna Badosso, Marshall Hodgins, and Chidi Akuma. Thank you, everyone. In our news department, Matt Humphrey, Joni Nicolo, and Alana Cole out there, and our live team. Brad Lillies behind the controls of our YouTube stream, Sierra, as I mentioned, and then Abby Adeyemi, who has our last look at your day.
Smoky skies and poor air quality continues with poor air quality across the province this morning. The south, we're already seeing 17 degrees, while up north, we're just hovering around 14 degrees. For Winnipeg right now, 16. We're warming up to 24, and it will be smoky outside.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, what a pleasure it is to have been with you this morning. Thank you for spending some time with us and including Information Radio, the morning show in your day. This is CBC. My name is Marcy Marcusa. Take care, be well, Manitoba. We'll talk to you again tomorrow right here on 89.3 FM. The Current's next. Stay tuned.